Hello and welcome to another exciting episode of the Comic Book Chronicles. I am your host, Roddykat. You can find me at Roddykat on Twitter. You can find me at News Nerds Need on Twitter. You can find me at CBCaps on Instagram.
South Carolina with Columbia down the way.
And sounds like you've heard come from none other than our man in Brooklyn, @agent_70 on Twitter and Instagram.
What's up, everybody?
Cooking raw with the Brooklyn
Chia. We are the Comic Book Chronicles, and we bring you this here program from none other than the Coast of the Podcast Network, the CSPN.us.
Do it today.
I don't know why I decided to change that, but hey, here we are. You can also find this here podcast on your podcast provider place of choice, whether it be Google Play, Apple iTunes, aka Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or the Coast of the Podcast Network's SoundCloud page. You can also find us recording every Thursday night, 9:30-ish p.m. on the YouTube channel of The Click Nation. That's youtube.com/the Click Nation and twitch.tv/Comic Book Chronicles.
Make sure to click like, subscribe, click the notification button, and all that good stuff.
Yeah. Pretty pleased with an Inferno on top. All of that. So, folks, we are going to get into this week's comics, but first, before we do any and all of that, we got a nice little recap of, or a spoiler-free, spoiler-light recap of this week's What If episode 8, the penultimate-ish episode.
Right, and what we're starting to find out is that the last, basically 2.2, 2.1, and the reason why I say 2.1 is that the very ending of episode 7 ties into episode 8, tangentially. And now we have episode 8, and it's going to roll right into episode 9. So we're seeing that there's the last third, less than it's like, let's say it's like 2 point, whatever episodes are going to be interrelated and crossing over.
Yes, there have definitely been seeds of, well, we already know where the seeds of what have been building up, but we've definitely, between the last issue, the last episode and I guess the Doctor Strange one, we've definitely seen some of this coming. or some of,
I was about to say, yeah, that's definitely a minor spoiler here in this episode. So essentially, what doesn't seem like it's going to be a direct crossover unless you saw, obviously, the ending of episode 7, right? Mm-hmm. So the title of this, and this is at least a minor spoiler, the title of this What If entry is What If Ultron 1, exploring a reality where Ultron actually succeeds in his plan for world domination and destroys the Avengers as a result of what happens in Age of Ultron.
Yes.
And just very quickly, we actually don't get a big recap of that movie. Instead, we come right into the reality where Black Widow and Hawkeye are basically the last Avengers standing, and they are trying to find a way to stop Ultron.
Right, yeah. We basically, like you just said, we kind of hit the ground running already in the thick of stuff. So it's like, you know what? No need for preamble on this one. And then they kind of go back and kind of get
them from recap it a little
bit. Yeah, but in very swift strokes, because I guess from what I saw in the news section, and we'll probably get to that later. You know, these what if episodes could have been a lot longer, but there was partially a choice for that reasoning,
Sure.
as to why they're not, and I guess also to kind of keep with the books. So makes sense, you know, keep them short and sweet and kind of keep them moving. But anyway, like I said, we'll talk about that later. But yeah, so we kind of get into this, and then we kind of come back full circle, back into the thick of things with what goes on, and we definitely do get a couple of we get another MCU tie outside of Age of Ultron, because a nice little beat from, I guess technically you could say, definitely Winter Soldier pops in to kind of be a deciding factor in this, going into the last part of it. But we also get a little bit of Endgame, or yeah, I guess in
Infinity War.
Yeah, Infinity War. In the same beats. So look at that. We're not, without spoiling too much of it, but if you think about the characters we have just talked about, and their roles in the last couple of movies, you kind of get what you might get a sense of how that's going to go.
Right.
And then, like, actually, we should probably cut to the most bonkers part of this. Bunkers part of this episode which is going into the last part, when basically Ultron
wins, right?
Ultron wins.
Ultron,
part,
right? Ultron winning involves Ultron, succeeding where he failed with regards to his plot. His original plot in Age of Ultron was to create the synthetic humanoid body, right? In this case, he succeeds, whereas in Age of Ultron he fails, and we get the Vision instead. In this case, that's the crux of the what if,
right?
And
not only
with,
that, go ahead.
What I was going to say is, by Ultron winning, he also gains control of one Infinity Gem / Stone, and using that, basically runs roughshod over the planet, and also murks a particular Titan who's already got a bunch of Infinity Stones / gems.
Right. So he ends up basically getting all of the Infinity Gems, and basically becomes as powerful as you think one with all of the gems would be. So that leads him into being aware of the multiverse. And
well, no, you jumped a little bit ahead, because he starts to run roughshod after basically knocking off everyone on planet Earth. Decides to take his adventures to the greater universe.
Right. So right. So he pretty much the same peace in our time mandate that he had for Age of Ultron, which apparently was not. I don't know. Some people think that whole dropping a meteor was supposedly what happened here. I don't know. That was a secondary plan, and this was his original plan by nuking the Earth. Which, sure, either way, whatever works. But yeah, he goes around the galaxy screwing up and just messing up everything. Gets into a couple of fights. One particular with Captain Marvel. Which goes a different way, but then he starts getting aware of the multiverse at large, and therein, which was funny to me, because I saw somebody liken this to that Will Ferrell movie, to where somebody was narrating his life, and he happens to be aware of it, or he gains awareness of it. I don't know.
Is that the Truman Show? That's the Jim Carrey movie?
That's the Jim Carrey. Yeah, that's right. It was I can't remember. It was like Stranger to Fiction or something. I can't remember. But whatever. There's a Will Ferrell fan out there, I'm pretty sure, who knows what I'm talking about. But regardless,
I was about to say, I'm like, spoiler alert, Agent _70 is not the biggest Will Ferrell fan.
Right. But but Ultron gains the awareness to sense the Watcher, much like Doctor Strange ended up doing in that episode, and then starts going after the Watcher. All the while, Hawkeye and Black Widow are trying to find the key to end Ultron on the Earth that bore him. Which was also kind of funny because the Watcher was like, no, you can do it. He was like egging them on, but they can't hear him. So, but anyway, and that leads to a fight between Ultron and the Watcher, and apparently the Watcher's got hands, as people keep saying. And he kind of almost goes Super Saiyan, but doesn't quite.
See, this is where this episode kind of lost me. Because it's not something we've ever seen a Watcher, forget Uatu, right? It's never something we've ever seen a Watcher do, at least in the comics.
There was a Rogue Watcher that kind of got into, well, definitely.
Oh, yeah, but that's specific, right? That's a specific character, it's implied here that this is Uatu, so I don't think we've ever seen Uatu act in this way or act like he's capable of acting like this.
I feel like we've seen him defend himself, but yeah, definitely not just get into a all-out brawl.
Right. So it was definitely, I think, jarring for myself. I don't know about Roddykat, but definitely for myself, I was jarred. This is where I was definitely taken out of my, listen, it's animated, so there's obviously disbelief all throughout. But this is where my comic book knowledge decided to creep up and say, "Hey, what the hell?"
Right. So
I don't know about you.
Now, I didn't have that big of an issue with it because, like I said, one is a what if. Two, well, the thing I had a big issue with was the motherfucker spoiling the thing. And not even excuse my language. Just this is it is what it is. But people spoiling that right after they saw it.
Well, I was about to say this is on Roddykat because he should stay off social media while one of these things are out.
I disagree.
But I understand people shouldn't, people shouldn't spoil right away.
Yeah,
there used to be a rule about 24 hours. But some people have stopped doing that.
It was like the morning. It was like probably like 8 or 9 o'clock in the morning.
Oh, I mean, I didn't watch it until lunch, so I hadn't gotten on social media at all to see. But that's interesting.
Yeah, but no, I shouldn't have to, especially that early. I shouldn't have to be. Shouldn't have to do that when people's like being silly. And people are gonna say, well, no, that's not a spoiler. Yeah, it is. If it's something that
it's kind of a spoiler.
It's very much a spoiler if you did not know, and you're putting screenshots of the fight.
That's terrible.
Or at least a part of the fight that or something.
See, those are the people you need to block.
Yeah. And of course, because I figured
or stop following.
Actually, I'm not even sure if I am following these people, but it somehow became across my purview one way or the other, and it was probably on News Nerd Need also, so that could have also been a thing. I don't remember. Regardless, that was a whole other thing. But to get back to the thing, outside of that, I wasn't really as sidelined by it with that because I was like, oh, okay. So because I was thinking, all right, now we're going to get to where they're going to start putting the team together. So it's somehow that's going to happen. So sure enough, oh nice. So I figured something was going to cause that, and since it was this fight was going to be probably the best thing is if nothing else, especially given the fact that we'd already seen. This Ultron in a past or briefly in a past episode. So I was kind of just glad to see one, the Watcher kind of getting in there. Two, we're starting to get quote unquote answers. Like we getting some things that's tying stuff together. Because there's only 9 episodes, so we knew at some point it was going to happen. And so the next one's probably going to be, getting the rest of the team together and then whatever fight with Ultron, I assume.
But so basically, just to wrap the discussion on this, we get to the point where the Watcher is basically, the Watcher's basically at his wit's end. He's running out of options. And the option that he ends up turning to is a character from a previous What If episode. And we're not going to spoil it here.
We kind of
but
already, but yeah.
What's that?
I said I kind of did already, but just
Yeah, we kind of exactly. We're not going to completely spoil it,
Yeah.
but the point is, we find another character from a previous What If episode making a reappearance here, and it seems like what we were talking about earlier, the formation of, and we've seen articles about this, calling them the Multiversal Avengers, and it just so happens that there's a mainstream Marvel comic book that's being put out solicited for December, if I'm not mistaken, that is going to harp on that same theme, that play upon that same theme. So it seems like episode 9 is going to involve this Infinity Stone / Gem powered Ultron being the main bad guy, and a group of some of the heroes from these. It seems likely that it's some of the heroes from these What If episodes being pulled together by Uatu to combat this great menace. There shall come a day.
Yes. I'm waiting for you. I was waiting for you to finish that up.
Oh no, because I changed it because I think it's there came a day. I think it is as opposed to there shall come.
Something like that.
But I can't remember the whole thing off the top of my head. So
understood. Regardless, it was a great episode, I thought. Because like I said, it's kind of rounding us to what we knew was coming.
Right. I think the part where where my comic book knowledge decided to jump up and bite me in the butt like that bullet bit Forrest Gump in the butt was something bit me
in the butt.
Yeah, it was a bullet. Which one they called it, $1 million wound, but I ain't seen. But anyway, but yeah, it's that's this particular bit where Uatu starts to get into some hand-to-hand combat. I think that's where they lost me a little bit, although I liked the general premise.
Right. Put the Watcher in MVC.
No. No.
Yes. We've already had Ultron. You might as well go ahead and complete the set. Put the Watcher in. Let them mix it up in there. That's what I'm saying.
Awesome. Wow.
Okay.
All right. So I guess we're done with What If episode number 8.
I believe so.
And we're going to transition over to
Audible. Real quick before we go into the comic book. So you already saw Star Wars Visions.
Yes.
And I just finished watching the rest of them.
Okay.
So do we want to kind of do a really quick well, I think we kind of already talked about this last week, but like a really quick impressions.
I mean, you can talk. I was about to say you can talk about the rest of them because I don't remember them off the top of my head like that.
Mm-hmm.
Like you watched the first 4 or 3?
The first 4, and then
okay. So you can talk about the last 5 and then maybe just your overall thoughts, because I'll try to catch up because it's been a while since I watched them now.
Right. So I think, I can safely say that episode 5 was probably my favorite, because that was the one where it was like there was like, hey, this mysterious magistrate person or whatever the case may be was looking for a Jedi, and this person had commissioned this sabersmith to make some lightsabers after finding kyber crystals. And
is that the one with the Margrave? I think they called it
Margrave. Yes.
Yeah, that's a good episode.
Yeah, and everything was not there were some things that were not what it seems, and the lightsabers color attunes to what what your affinity is, and that's part is cool. I kind of wish that was actually canon. They could probably do it if they really wanted to, but they don't. Because honestly, coming up, that's what I thought. How lightsabers worked, but Apparently that was not the case. Ended up not being the case. Episode 6 was pretty much. I feel like I want to call it Astro Boy / Mega Man because it was basically the droid that wanted to be a Jedi and his armless master, his armless maker, or whatever the case may be. And he ended up becoming a Jedi near the end of it, and apparently the power actually was within him all along, in a way. Actually, the rest of them I'm not.
Right. So I just pulled it up. So 6 is Toby.
Right.
Right. That's Astro Boy one.
Right.
7 is the Elder.
Yes.
Right. Which is an interesting episode because I for sure thought that Padawan was toast.
Me too. Yes.
Number 8 is Lop and Ocho, and that is that's actually a pretty dramatic one because that's a longer one than the other ones.
Right.
Because this is the one that has basically an adopted family member basically siding against the blood relative, the blood daughter, but siding with the father against there is a word for this, against cooperating with the Empire.
Right.
You know.
Yeah,
because collaborating with the Empire, really. You know.
Yeah.
So
usually that would be like, hey, it's the younger person. It's like the father would have been the one collaborating, and the younger person, or something like, or some variation therein.
Right. So it's the father who's actually against collaborating, and the blood daughter is actually for collaborating, and the adopted daughter, who the blood daughter actually brings into the family, turns out to be the one most loyal to the father and becomes worthy, of picking up Mjolnir. I mean, a blade. And when I say blade, this is Star Wars. So, we talked about this last week, or in the last episode, since, we recorded the last episode fairly recently, that the majority of these Star Wars Visions shorts revolved around lightsabers. So that's what this episode ends up coming around, as it relates to a family blade, which is a tradition in Japan when it comes to katanas and whatnot. Those blades were ancestral and heirlooms, so they were passed down. And in this case, this lightsaber was supposed to be passed down to the eldest daughter, and it turns out that it ended up getting passed down to the adopted daughter. And the last one is a Jedi returning to a forbidden love to help defend her kingdom from a Sith-like shogun.
Yeah, it's basically what ends up happening. You might as well say that's almost Anakin, and in a way, what ends up happening near the end of Revenge of the Sith, in a way. So, but that one was actually pretty good too. So basically, the whole series ended on a dark note, even though none of them are connected, and they're all pretty much anthology stories. Overall, I kind of enjoyed it. Like I said, the fifth one is probably my favorite, followed by probably 9 and the first one.
I like the Lop and Ocho one.
Yeah, that one was actually pretty good.
I thought that one was so deeply Japanese.
Yeah.
I mean, they're all deeply Japanese. Let's not beat around the bush here. But in terms of the family dynamics at play, right. I thought that one was deeply based upon Japanese family dynamics, at least in certain periods of Japanese history.
Right. So, like I said last week, if you're a Star Wars fan and you like anime, or if you like anime or Star Wars, either way, you might enjoy these.
Yeah, come in with an open mind. Just come in with an open mind.
Yes.
You know, we talked about this in our last episode that these are not necessarily canon.
Exactly.
We don't know if that's how they're going to end up.
Yeah,
but
now I feel like we do know that. 'Cause like we said last week, they're pretty much of the world, but not in the world.
Right, no, but in terms of when I say canon, they may not be strictly canon, but just like Roddykat was saying earlier about hoping that they might incorporate a type of kyber crystal that responds to the user's affiliation, as opposed to just being as opposed to being bled to go red.
Right.
You know, so that would be interesting. That would be an interesting twist that they might introduce. You know, they might not take the stories and make them canon, but they might take concepts from these stories. So we don't know yet.
Yeah.
You know, this will be a lot like the extended. They call it the extended universe, right?
Oh, the
expanded universe.
Yes, the expanded universe that's not canon anymore, but they've taken
exactly. Exactly. They'll pick and choose what they might like to incorporate.
Yes.
So you never know. You never know.
But yeah, now we can go into the comic books of the week. And we said we're going to start off with Amazing Spider-Man number 74, which, you know, this ought to be quick.
Well, you know what's not quick? Is reading off the credits. So let me get this real quick, like we didn't start the fire style. That's a shout out to one of the short stories that's in this. That I actually don't think I have. I don't think I cited the all the credits for the multiple stories that are in this book. But the main book, this is just the main story. Written by Nick Spencer and Christos Gage, with pencils by Marcelo Ferreira, Mark Bagley, Zé Carlos, Dio Neves, Carlos Gomez, Ivan Fiorelli, and Humberto Ramos. Inks by Wayne Foucher, Marcelo Ferreira, Andrew Hennessy, and Andy Owens. Man, my typos. Zé Carlos. 1 second, I gotta fix that little typo there. Zé Carlos, Dio Neves, Carlos Gomez, Ivan Fiorelli, and Victor Olazaba. Colors are by Andrew Crossley and Edgar Delgado and Alex Sinclair, and letters are by VC's our favorite paisan, Joe Caramagna. So, I would rather talk about the We Didn't Start the Fire a little bit at the end of the little short in one of the that talked about Spidey's history, but the main story is the supposed culmination. Did you mute yourself, Roddy?
I said, yeah. I said you might as well, because it's better than the main story.
Oh no! So the main story is the culmination of 74 issues plus a bunch of giant-sized, basically annuals,
and a few
one shots,
and a few a couple of side one shots, and another event. Well, no, actually that was in the 74. So yeah, and a couple of other one shots.
Right. Those one shots are basically like like annuals. Right. Because we don't see annuals anymore. So for the old school, you can call them annuals. They're just basically the culmination of the of a longer story arc, right? Mm-hmm. So basically, this is the culmination of Nick Spencer's story. And you've heard me say it before. Roddykat may, in fact, echo my sentiments on this. This has been essentially a gigantic waste of time. Nick Spencer has contributed very little to the ongoing Spider-Man mythos and lore. He's done, I think, one relatively valuable thing, and that has been with the revelations at the end of this run, which essentially undoes, spoiler alert, I'm going to ring the spoiler bell right here. Spoilers incoming for the entire run of Nick Spencer, which is this whole Kindred business was meant to be an undoing of the Sins Past storyline. That was J. Michael Straczynski basic retcon that had Norman Osborn father 2 children with Gwen Stacy, right? Which turned out in this case to be some more machinations due to another retcon that Nick Spencer put in, which I'm still not so keen on, because essentially he makes Norman Osborn out to have contacted Mephisto a long time ago and sold Harry's soul to Mephisto.
He basically had his own brand new day, or attempt to have a brand new day, whatever the case. Something like that. I don't know. It's all weird.
Yeah, it's a little weird, right? And that's the worst part, is that it's kind of hard to piece together. And the fact that we can't even piece it together after 74 issues is telling. It's a terrible sign.
Mm-hmm.
So what we have in this issue is what looks to be a sacrifice by what we find out is just another clone of Harry Osborn. What we get in this issue is basically Spencer putting all of the toys back in all of the toys back in the sandbox. That's what they call it, right? Yes. Or the toy box, right? So with just that one exception of kind of resetting the since past storyline, he's brought MJ back together with Peter, and that's really the status that he's leaving this book in, with the One More Day stuff still relatively intact, mostly intact, with Mephisto. That whole Mephisto being behind a lot of the stuff that's happening in Spider-Man is still very much in play and very much hanging over this book, like, I hate to say it, like a shadow.
Well,
like a specter.
Right, and we've also seen that Mephisto is in other places in the because he's still, the stuff he's doing in the Avengers are still at play. So I still feel like there's going to be some kind of event that's going to tie all this together, or at least, like I was telling Agent 70 before the show, that's going to, at the very least, touch on this other stuff, like there's some kind of way that's going to involve Mephisto. It very well could not. We don't even know. So,
yeah, I think my frustration with this is that Spidey is the flagship character, right? He's been, he's the one that everyone fights over movie rights for, right? And at the character's essence, magic is one thing. Deals with the devil are something completely different. And I think that's where some of the writers wanted to move away from that, especially in the wake of One More Day. Mm-hmm. And they really tried to bury that and dealt with other aspects of Peter Parker's story. But every time they try to touch upon this and bring it back up, I get the heebie-jeebies, and I feel like I'm not reading a real Spider-Man comic. I don't know about you, Roddykat.
And clone. So actually, that brings me to this, because actually in the backup story that Spidey was like, did they even like the clones? I don't remember. It's been so long. So and part of my point in me bringing it up was the stuff that was retconned throughout this whole thing was stuff that was kind of already buried by time.
Right.
No one was thinking about Brand New Day, One More Day, or any of that. So the fact that Nick Spencer decided to bring this back up again, like I said, modern newer readers of Spidey probably didn't know anything about what was going on. And like I just said, like, we try to not even think about it as longtime readers. So the fact that it was brought up, now don't get me wrong, not saying that was a bad thing, because I'm not going to sit here and say that I'm opposed to long form storytelling and having a long con. Like we've sat through Hickman in the Avengers and and what's going on in X-Men, and have enjoyed it. Yeah, and have enjoyed it. So it can work. It does work. And we came into this with a lot of promise. There was a lot of promise in here, but then as time went by, as we were saying while we were talking about this thing, it just kind of kept going and didn't seem like it was going anywhere, and just kind of kept adding stuff and adding stuff and adding stuff that didn't really feel like it was moving things along, but just adding to what was going on. And
right. We got a little bit of a cameo from Boomerang, one of Spencer's favorite characters, and what was the point of that?
Who's now dead, by the way. So
right.
Spoiler alerts on that from a couple of issues ago. But to come into this issue, which pretty much ties back everything together, and as I just said, puts everything back in the box, and have it so nice and neat and clean. And also to the point of what we thought was going to be the case coming into this issue, even while being could have very well happened in the course of this issue. I feel like it was kind of tied up, one, kind of nice and neat, two, like we felt pretty certain, like, well, clearly Spidey's going to get taken out, so that where he won't. That's the reason why he's not going to be into the book after this. Come to find out, no, he's all right. He's cool because he gets messed up in the course of this whole the last few issues, and this issue also. But no, he just kind of like he's all right. He's everything like this. The cover, as you can see on the if you're watching the video version, it's like it's like he and MJ just kind of swing away. Like he's still bruising, but well, he gets bruised at the end of the fight, but he is he gets fucked up at the end of the fight, but he still somehow manages to be all right. And then I thought there was this whole Mephisto thing, like Agent 7 was saying, and the whole Doctor Strange and Mephisto thing, which like Agent 7 was saying before the before we started recording, it's like what was there some significance to what was going on there, specifically the a roulette wheel roll.
Right. We don't actually find out what happens with the roulette wheel roll. Right. It's not. It's a lot like in Fast Five where Santos and oh my God, what's the other guy's name? Oh my gosh, it just dropped out of my head. But remember, they're playing roulette, right? And they put 10 million on red, 10 million on black, and it's implied that the roulette ball hits 0, so they both lose.
Right. And I believe they probably said that in another in a movie after that. It was like, they lost their money and whatever. But I don't know, or that could be also implied. But yeah, so it's pretty much like that. That being said, like, all right, so this is over. This is it, and then we get a couple of backup stories. Not even backup stories. They're kind of almost like, I guess. Wait, is this because this is an anniversary? Because this is 475.
Right. So it's an anniversary. It's an excuse for them to charge you $10 for this comic. So they throw in a little bit of extra content. So the first backup story is in memory of Ben Parker. The stories by Christos Gage, with art by Todd Nauck, colors by Rochelle Rosenberg, and letters by VC's Joe Caramagna. It's a little tribute with an unbeknownst to us prior to this story, a former neighbor of the Parkers.
Yeah, and Bill Murray shows up.
What's that?
Apparently, Bill Murray shows up. Because I don't know, you probably didn't, because you didn't look at it. Because when the character first shows up, I was like, is that Bill Murray from Groundhog Day?
I didn't get that. Okay.
Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, but anyway,
is that something that people posted?
No, that's when I saw it. When I saw the art, the art for that character looks like Bill Murray to me.
I gotcha.
But
what's weird is that this didn't actually look a lot like Todd Nauck's art, but I guess his style is still evolving.
Right.
It didn't look like Nauck's art right away to me.
Right. You can kind of tell it in the noses and stuff like that. But yeah, you're right. It is a little bit different from what we know, from what we're used to with him.
Right. So that was a nice little story about Ben Parker's kind of a retcon of Ben Parker's effect on the people outside of the Parker household. Mm-hmm. The people in the immediate Forest Hills neighborhood that they lived in. What I was referring to, the "we didn't start the fire" bit, was about there's a two-page splash of the complete history of Spider-Man by Sean Ryan and Gustavo Duarte, and it gets to the part where they have to rapid fire. Maybe we're going to need to rename our rapid fire section and call it that we have to "we didn't start the fire" this thing, because even I started to, when I was reading this, I was just like, oh, okay, Moreland, Spider Totem, New Avengers Time, Civil War, Iron Spidey, man, it's really hard to rhyme. Memories fuzzy here. I'm like, oh my God, I'm actually singing it.
Right. But yeah, it was a nice little recap of Spidey's history. That was cute. And then wait, there was one more after that, wasn't there? I can't remember what it is though.
Oh yeah, the last one.
Oh yeah, the Ben Riley thing.
The last one is the one that got us all in a huff, or at least myself.
No,
I don't know about Roddykat.
No, you're right.
Because this is the kickoff. This is the kickoff to the Beyond storyline.
Yeah. Yeah. So
yeah, and it brought in characters we were unfamiliar with because because neither of us were reading the Clone Saga and the adventures of one Ben Riley when he was acting as Spider-Man.
Right. So yeah, so we see this character and they're in prison and Beyond Cord, shows up. So I'm feeling like, okay, what's going on here? And then basically, spoiler, Ben Riley shows up because apparently they have history together, and that's where it ends because they end up kissing and they say, hey, next issue, because that's what starts up the whole Beyond thing and whatnot, which both Agent 70 and I have been debating about whether we're going to stick around the book. I think for when that happens.
Right, it's going to happen next week.
It is.
So we're probably going to read 75, and we might be keeping up with it, tangentially. We might read an issue here or there, but it's not going to be at the forefront of our reading pile. I'm probably not going to keep it on my physical pull list because it's essentially what I did when Ben Riley was around the first time as Spider-Man. Is I stopped reading the book.
Yeah.
So, and my collection proves that. So, we'll see how that goes starting next week. Come back to us then, and we'll let you know what we think.
Yeah. So we can swiftly move on to the next book we're going to talk about, which is Inferno number 1.
Sure. So Inferno number 1 is written by Jonathan Hickman with art by Valerio Schiti, with colors by David Curiel and letters by VC's Joe Sabino. So just as by way of introduction to this, the two of us tonight, the two co-hosts present tonight, our other co-hosts are actually messaging us behind the scenes about what they've been reading up until now, and the two co-hosts here tonight, we talked about just prior to going on the air was our feelings on Inferno number 1, and one thing that came up is at least my foggy recollection of everything that happened in House of X Powers of 10, and so I think as we head into Hickman's, it's not necessarily closing of this era of the X-Men, but it's definitely his I think it's the culmination of the story that he's been telling since Hoxpox. We may not see the end of Krakoa at the end after this, because it's a shame that this would only last 3 years. It's kind of like the Utopia era. Remember when they were on the island off of San Francisco? It's a shame. I feel like this is a status quo that they could keep, and I think that's what they're going to do. I think this is a status quo that they're going to maintain for a little while. The island of Krakoa and the medicine and the gates and all that stuff.
I hope so.
Because they've done a good job of creating this.
Right. Yeah, and I think we've said that coming out of Hoxpox, because it was like, it would be a shame if they did kind of do with, or Limbo, which that was crazy in itself, or even when they were in New York, like they've been the X-Men have been, and the mutants at large have been pretty much in a lot of places. This one, like Agent 7 said, I do hope they kind of keep up with, because it seems prime for years of stories.
Right. It's not temporary like the Outback was.
Right.
Like we knew that the Outback was temporary.
Right.
And obviously the original setting being the Xavier School, has been done over and over again. So it doesn't hurt to have a little bit of at least location stability for a bit. But getting back to this book. So what has been And as I said, just as a quick capper to that is, I think it's going to be worth it to reread uh, House of X, Powers of 10 for myself as as a refresher, as Inferno starts to kick into high gear, because I think the first page of Inferno harkens back to the first page of House of X.
Like I was telling Agent 70
Because I literally just pulled it up.
Right.
You know,
that's what I'm saying. So that's what I was telling you before the show. I think that whole conversation that we didn't even get into what pretty much happened, but we won't really spoil it too much. But basically,
well, the first sequence is actually
right.
harkens back to House of X.
Yeah,
the first pages, yeah.
Right, and the conversation that we were talking about prior to the show was pretty much in there somewhere in Hoxpox. Not may not have been the first book, but it was definitely in Hoxpox. But we just kind of get an abbreviated version of that conversation, which has pretty much been fleshed out here. Because I feel like I remember enough about Hoxpox to remember that conversation actually happening. And thereby being the catalyst to this, which at the time we were like, well, we knew they were going to bring this back up at some point. We just didn't know when or how. And here we go. And it's also tying together some other stuff, like with Orcus, the humans that are against, that are against Krakoans. Because you see a couple of other people that show back up. Which, speaking of, by the way, I've been to ask you about this. What's up with those simian scientists? I don't remember them from anywhere.
You got me.
Okay, so good. I'm not the only one, because I'm sitting here like, wait, what? Like, who are these people?
You got me. Because Orcus, remember, Orcus was, an amalgamation, a melding of several groups, not just villain groups. There's members of, there's like elements of S.H.I.E.L.D., elements of Alpha Flight, elements of AIM and Hydra, all part that have all come together to form Orcus. So I don't know where the Planet of the Apes characters came from.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if that was one of the Splinter books that I didn't read. I don't know.
Which is weird, because I've read it and I don't remember them, so I don't know. But we also know that people like horticulture kind of popping up in here, and we do know where they've come from.
Right.
So, but that being said, a number of things from Hoxpox on have kind of come back up. The two main things are Myra McTaggart, who we haven't seen in a good minute, and her dealing, well, her part in the way Krakoa gets started and what she's doing behind the scenes, or not necessarily what she's doing behind her part behind the scenes, basically, and how she's feeling about her status at this point. But also another thing from Xbox was like there was a mutant that could put a whole kink in the plans that Myra had run into, that has now been brought back into the fold some kind of way, which I don't know when and or if when that happened. But I am very kind of curious about that. But it's definitely going to be some.
Oh yeah, that was a nice little cliffhanger ending, because it was something that, at least to our knowledge, was never supposed to happen, and they were trying to prevent it.
Right, and they had been, exactly. So the fact that it actually happened under their noses, which a couple of things have happened under their noses, so that's, and I suspect it's probably going to fall back into a couple of issues, or past couple of issues, because I know there's been some things with the Five and them doing things that the council don't know anything about.
Right.
So I feel like it's probably going to stem from some of that, but we don't get that just yet. Maybe the next issue. So. But I'm looking forward to see what the next issue holds, or what's going to happen in the line of X books that this is gonna come through, to see what happens out of it, because it was pretty good. I was just like, now I would go so far as to say that Inferno also is a harkens back to an old '90s event.
I mean, in name only, really.
Yes, in name only. But Which is the other thing that comes up is like, so is the Goblin Queen going to have anything to do? Because I know she's also been a thing that's been brought up, but I don't think so. Because it's pretty much, it seems like it's centering on Mystique and what she did, and the stuff that kind of got popped off in Hoxpox that could lay bare here. So I don't know, but regardless, like I said, I'm in for the ride so far. I'm coming from this issue.
Sure.
So I think we can kind of go on from that.
I think so. President Bartlett.
What's next?
Anything?
I was about to say, in terms of what we have in common, you want to do Miles?
Yes.
All right, so we'll cover Miles. I don't know why Roddykat's so happy about
because I enjoyed this issue of Miles. It's because it's also his 10th anniversary issue, apparently.
Yeah, I mean, we're celebrating his anniversary, which is cool. I wasn't so keen on the issue as a whole, but we'll get to it right now. So the main story is written by Saladin Ahmed, with art by Carmen Carnero, colors by Eric Arciniega, and letters by VC's Corey Pettit. There are backup stories. The second story is written by Phil Lord, Christopher Miller, Kent Powers, and Jeff Loveness, with art by Sarah Pichelli, and colors by Rochelle Rosenberg, and again, letters by VC's Corey Pettit. And the third little brief backup story is written by Cody Ziegler, with art by Anthony Piper, and colors. No, just Anthony Piper's the colors, and letters by VC's Corey Pettit. So take it away.
So yeah, the short straw is that, and this is a thing that's happened a few different times, not just in this book, not just with Miles, but Miles is on his way to meet Starling because they have a date, their first date at that, and of course he's in his new gear. Which, if you were watching the video, you can see his new suit. If you haven't seen it already, I'm still not sure how I feel about it, but it is what it is. Don't but he's swinging around and helping folks on his way to his because he just can't help himself. He's Spider-Man. On his way to his date, which does end up happening. And it comes to find out that he goes through his date, just trying to get to where he needs to be, and it's kind of late. But also, Starling is kind of late. Also, if you don't know who Starling is the granddaughter of the Vulture, Adrian Toomes. But she's not. I guess technically, she's not a bad person. She's not bad. She's actually, I believe, she's gone into. No, well, yeah, she has been working with She's worked with the Champions, which doesn't really mean anything, but yeah, she's not her grandfather, put it that way. So they had their first date, and apparently they ended up meeting each other. But the crux of the issue is pretty much Miles on his way to get to her, and that's pretty much wraps up the main story without giving a couple things away, which is not whole much, which kind of did actually. But it was
right. I mean, there's not much to it, and that's kind of why I was a little disappointed.
Right.
What it is a setup, because it sets up with the cliffhanger last page. It sets up a confrontation between these two heroes with a character who has recently seen the spotlight in an MCU movie, and it's not Wenwu.
Yes.
So that kind of narrows things down a bit, but that's fine. That's fine and dandy. The next short story is the one I said earlier by primarily by the creators of the Into the Spider-Verse movie, with art by Sarah Pichelli, and it's also kind of a day in the life type of thing.
Yes, kind of like almost like the last one, the main story, but a little different.
Right, and it's and there are cool bits here. There's nice little cameos by Marvel staffers in the comment section.
Yes.
I kind of laughed. I was like, so Miles is a lefty? He throws lefty? because that's the pitch that he's throwing.
Right.
And why on earth would he throw a pitch like that? That's just kind of ridiculous. I know if it's for comedic effect, but that's just silly.
Right.
I think that's part of that it's little things like that kind of turned me off. I was just kind of like, oh, that's not necessary. Just have him throw the pitch.
Agent 70 being the sports fan amongst us also.
Right. That's just, I was just kind of like, oh, that's just silly.
But also,
and like all in all, I thought it was, it's one of those, those quickie, again, day in the life type of stories.
Right. I thought it was fun.
Nothing of real consequence.
Right. I thought it was fun though, especially the part where, spoiler alert, Mal hosts Saturday Night Live, but he bombs.
Right. So what did you think of the last story?
Hang on, let me refer back because I actually forgot about what happened in that last story. Pardon me one moment.
This is the Ziegler story. Right, who's going to be writing part of the Spider-Man Beyond?
Right. Oh, yes. Okay, now I remember. So, I don't know. I thought it was all right. Yeah, so it's basically like, hey, it's a future story, and could it be canon's future story? Maybe, maybe not, but it doesn't really matter because it's like, Miles kind of stopping a robbery, and being a role model in a way also. So
right. I mean, this puts Miles in his 20s.
Yeah,
that's essentially what it is.
Right.
It puts him in the prime of his superhero career.
Right. I'm also curious about who the missus is that he spoke of, because I wonder if it is indeed.
What's that?
I said I'm kind of curious because he mentions in here like I got to get home to the missus, and I'm sitting here like, who is the missus? Like, is it Starling or is it Barbara? I know.
I was about to say I totally missed out on that.
Yeah, because
it's. I think what I disliked is a little bit of the incorporation of slang. I just thought it was a little too heavy. It's not something I'm used to seeing with Miles.
I mean, I figure like this is him relating to the kids
in his 20s.
Yeah. I mean, it happens. Like, I really didn't think that much of it because, like, I figured it's him, just him relating to the kids and him still being young-ish. Like, yeah, he's not the age he is currently in the comics, but he's still at a relatable age. I think that's why I really didn't think that much about it, I guess.
So. Yeah, I kind of bumped on that. I bumped on that heavy, so I'm not so sure how his writing is going to be on Beyond. Not that that's going to be an issue with Ben Reilly,
right?
But I'm kind of like, well, so how's he going to treat this particular story?
Right. So all in all, like I said, there was nothing. There was not a. I mean, there was a little bit of action flicks, action going on, but nothing of real consequence in this. In this whole issue, but you know what? Sometimes it doesn't always have to be. Like just a couple of fun stories, and a celebration of Miles in his 10 years. So I didn't really have a big problem with it.
I just thought it was inconsequential. That's what I didn't appreciate about it. Yeah. I felt like this is a prime place to start a new story, and they did with the cliffhanger, but
right.
It seemed like there should have been more to it. That's just my opinion.
Sure. That being said,
let me take shots while I can,
That being said, I guess we'll do one more book and then we'll do the rapids of the fire.
Yeah, we're gonna start the fire.
Yeah. Oh wait, I need to see what you actually. Because I know we pretty much mostly read the same stuff.
I mean, we can talk. I was about to say we could talk Darkhold Alpha or Black Cat. I don't know if you got to Black Cat.
I did actually. Yes. Yeah, you know what? Let's do Black Cat because there's something in there I'm kind of curious about. So.
All right. So let me get the credits out of the way, and you can go right ahead. It's written by Jed McKay with art by Cia Villa, colors by Brian Reber, and letters by Ferran Delgado.
Ah, nice and sweet. I love it. So
Well, it helps when it's a consistent creative team. That's what it's been mostly on this book. It's been these four creators.
yeah. Sadly, this is the last issue of this book for now.
Oh, this volume, yeah.
Yeah. I guess there's going to be like a giant size apparently after this, but this is it for the time being, for what we know. Not like I'm sure it's going to come back at some point. But you know, I don't know of any other events that's probably gonna come back with or whatever the case may be. But nevertheless, so we're still in the middle of this. I don't know if I want to even call it a heist. Basically, it's coming out of the whole Infinite Destinies thing that I still haven't read, and Felicia's trying to gather these Infinity Stone powered, or Infinity Gems powered, adjacent powered ish people for a reason. And apparently, we found out this issue that, and I totally forgot about this, even though it was so recent. Heroes Reborn kind of comes back into play in a way because because Nighthawk shows up and who still remembers what happened then, and he wants to, he knows what she's doing, so he wants,
Right. So basically, just hold on to your thought right there. Sure. I'll fill in a little bit of the blank, or a few of the blanks, because the Infinite Destinies backup stories, I've been keeping up with them for the most part, and they really haven't done a good job of filling in what this heist is all about. I think that's what the annual or the one shot is going to do.
Sure.
And they basically just relayed the fact that there are parallel forces trying to gather these infinity people. Right? They're not infinity gems anymore or stones. They're infinity people, right? So, what was the DC title? Infinity Incorporated? Is that what it was?
Yes.
Yeah. So there's no infringement there. It's just the infinity people, right? And Felicia's gathering them for one reason. Nick Fury's trying to gather them, possibly for the same reason, possibly not.
No, I think he's just mad that Felicia stole Star from him.
I think he also has some ulterior motive in this too.
Well, maybe.
Because he's been duking it out with Nighthawk as well, who is the third character. That's what I mean.
Right, because the backup storage. That's right. Okay.
Exactly. So that's how, we're not 100% sure, and it's Nick Fury. Even if it is Sam Jackson, Nick Fury Jr., it's still Nick Fury. So there are ulterior motives here. So how that relate, what his purpose is, and what Nighthawk's purpose is, may be at cross purposes, but we know what Nighthawk's purpose, what his goal is, which is to attempt to use these infinity people to restore the Heroes Reborn timeline. Reality.
Right.
Go on.
Yes. That was pretty much the crux of it. We come to find out. So the part where Odessa Drake comes in, and I know she's been kind of in and out of this book. I vaguely forgot about their standing with each other. I know they've been at odds, and I remember part of the last part where I think Felicia stole her immortality or whatever it was.
Yeah, but don't you remember they kind of struck a truce?
Yes, I do remember that. But I'm saying, but I don't know why they just at odds with each other for whatever reason. Because Felicia mentioned, her place in this, and Odessa was mentioning her place in everything, and that was like, did I miss something, or is just like whatever that whole thing is. Regardless, there's that whole thing, and we get to the end of the
that's what I was going to say. Is that's McKay looking to develop the whole Thieves Guild in New York thing,
right?
Which is still, I think, a quality story that should be followed up on.
Well, we will see if that happens. If it gets a chance to, if it continues to get a chance to, because they keep stopping the goddamn book.
Right.
Which, yeah, I don't know. Like I said, that's one of the frustrating things about Well, DC also. Well, no, Marvel's been doing this a lot more than DC has. To be honest with this, just starting books and stopping them with, restarting with, tying them in with the events or whatever the case may, or just arbitrarily stopping those because of who even knows what. Some would say sales, someone doesn't even know why or for whatever reason. But
Right, and obviously it was exacerbated by the pandemic. So
right.
we have in this book, you know what? I'll tell you, I was kind of broadsided by this announcement that this was the last issue, because the first thing I saw, I think, was CF Via's Twitter post. I hopped on Twitter over lunch and I saw his post. It might have been the Gram, but he posted an image that he drew from this issue and said that it was the next to last issue. And I was like, oh, snap, what's going on? And then when I got to the end of this book, when I was reading it later in the afternoon and in the evening, we get to what would have been the letters page, and we get this little announcement that this is the last issue of the main series, and we're going to get this giant-sized Black Cat Infinity Score to finish up the book, to finish up this particular volume and the story.
Right. So we have no reason as to why this is happening, but here we are.
Right, and it's a shame because this is really one of the better books that's out there right now.
Agreed.
It's a consistent read. The art, the quality of the storytelling and the art together, and that's really what makes a good comic book.
Right, and it's been fun the whole time. Like, you would, coming into this, you would have never thought, like, who would want to read a book about Felicia Hardy the Black Cat? Turns out, yeah, it was way better.
You should be right. Yeah. You should be, and it's quality stuff. Maybe if more people go out and read and buy the trade paperback or buy digital copies, this is quality stuff. This is definitely one of those books where if we ever do get around to doing a year-end show where we actually do awards, I'm pretty sure Black Cat is going to be number one in the category. It's probably my nominee of books that need more readers. Anything that's written by Jed MacKay with art, hopefully by CF Via. They've been rotated cover artists, because remember, first it was J. Scott Campbell and then it was Pepe Larraz.
Right.
So I don't mind that they rotate cover artists, but as long as CF Via is willing to do interiors, keep him and MacKay on this character, because they're doing some bang up stuff.
Yeah, for as long as MacKay's got something to tell, and we know he's picked up a few more books than he had when Black Cat started. But hey, he's still doing right. He might even come up for writer in the year-end stuff. The way his stuff's been hitting. So, but anyway, we'll get to that when we get to that, and hopefully we will definitely get to that at the end of the year, because we didn't get the one this year, or last year. Now that I think about it, but hey, stay tuned, folks. Anyway, I
did mine. I did my category.
Agent 70 did do.
I'm looking at the rest of y'all, the three of y'all.
Yes. Well, things were things. Anyway, we are going to go into the rapid fire, folks.
All right, we're spinning it up. I really need to. I think we're just gonna sing it, because I don't know if I really want to pull Billy Joel singing "We Didn't Start the Fire."
I ain't got time to bleed.
All right, so let me go, because I think we still have one more book in common, maybe two. Did you read Nonstop, Spidey?
Yeah, 2.
Okay. So, Good Asian number 5 of 10. This is from Image. It's written by Pornsak Pichetshoot, with art by Alexandra Tefenki, colors by Lee Luffridge, and letters by Jeff Powell. So this is where the book has decided to make a turn. We get halfway through, and guess what, folks? This is where some of the lead character, Edison Hark's history comes to the fore, and we get some more context into why things are happening around this particular family that he's been adopted into. And I'll leave it at that. It's actually a really good turning point issue. This is like a high point of the series. We are halfway through. The next book is, and I didn't really read this because I own this book in its original printing. I skimmed it because I wanted to see what else they put in it, and what they might have changed, but they didn't change anything. This is G.I. Joe, A Real American Hero, yearbook number 3. This is a reprint by IDW of the original Marvel printing from the fall of 1986 with a cover date of March 1987. It's written by Larry Hama. The main story is written by Larry Hama with pencils by Ron Wagner and inks by Kim DeMulder, colors by Max Scheel. And this is another silent story. It's not the Snake Eyes silent interlude story, but it is a play on that. And it is one of my favorite. I love these yearbooks. These yearbooks always had so much bang for your buck. They gave you so much bang for your buck back in the day.
Yeah, they did.
You know, they even gave you, 1 or 2 stories, and they gave you a recap of all the issues that you missed in the last, 12 or so months, 12 or so issues or more that would have been covered between yearbooks. And that was valuable if yourself, like myself, weren't exactly able to keep up with a monthly comic book pull at that time. So those yearbooks were so great in that regard. The cover art is by Mike Zeck. There's some pinups in there by Mike Zeck. It's some really great stuff. Next up is Berserker, number 5 of 12. This is published by Boom. This is, of course, written by Keanu Reeves and Matt Kindt, with art by Ron Garney, colors by Bill Crabtree, and letters by Clem Robbins. Here, too, is a turning point. We're not halfway through the series, but there is a turning point in this issue regarding the character of, I'm forgetting the character's name. I think it's like Unut or something like that. It's something that is meant to evoke a primitive man, a prehistoric man, and this is the name that the character has. And the turning point here is the character opens up to one of the researchers that's looking into the character's powers and past, and we get a little bit of understanding as to what is driving the character in present day, because, spoiler alert, this character is essentially immortal. Not truly, maybe, we don't know that yet, but essentially immortal.
Right. I feel like we've talked about this before when we say that this is kind of like a Valiant book. Is it Eternal Warrior, or what was the other one? Because I feel like the characters got the Valiant's got a couple of characters that's kind of almost immortal. But also, if you, like me, look at this book and say, my love for you is like Berserker, then you're good people, and I like you. Anyway.
All righty. Next up, this is completely out of left field. I probably got sucked in by the title, and then I opened the book up, and there is a splash page in here that kept me turning the page. I don't know if Roddykat's going to be able to pull that up. Because you just got the covers, right?
I do, but I don't think I get that one. I didn't expect anybody to actually read that one, but hang on, I can get that in a second. But give me a second, I can pull it.
Well, what's funny about it is that it actually has a bunch of variant covers. Mm-hmm. A bunch of them, like the main cover is actually by Bill Sienkiewicz. Yes. There's a cover by Adam Hughes. There's a cover by there's a photo cover with the model. So there's actually like an interesting group of artists that have provided covers for this book. So it's the Sienkiewicz cover that kind of got me interested. But there's a splash page that I was kind of like, oh, okay, I see you. But essentially, this story is a great little independent story. It's about not someone who is looking for guns, but it's the gun runner. It's the person providing guns for certain, or at least weapons for certain illicit or tactical activities. And that person gets pinched by the government. Who's got all the money? The government. Shout out to In Living Color. And I think I forget the name of the skit. I'm pretty sure that was David Alan Grier and Damon Wayans. But but yeah, there is a great splash page here, and that got me turning pages on this. The creative team on this is Charles R. Dye as the writer. Uh, Unknown to myself before this, but I made sure to follow him on Instagram. The artist is Hor Keng, based out of Malaysia. Colors are by Asifur Rahmani, and letters are by David Leach. So this is published by Hard Case Crime Publishing.
Oh wait, I thought it said Titan.
I think this is one of their imprints.
Okay, gotcha. So yeah, I did pull up the cover. At first, because I saw the cover, I was like, wait, is that Gal Gadot? And also, so Gun Hunting made me think of thinking it was more anime for some reason. I mean, the name anyway, because I feel like there's an anime that's kind of a similar name.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, but you're enjoying it so far.
Well, yeah, I mean, I got a kick out of it. We can talk about it more after we get off, after we end the show.
Sure. Also,
but yeah, it was interesting. I'm going to try to keep up with it. Hopefully, we keep getting copies in our review copies.
Right. Also, looked like the baroness showed up from what I saw from that second page.
What's that?
It looks like the baroness showed up from what I saw from that second page.
Oh yeah, that's what I'm talking about.
Mm-hmm.
That second splash page, I was like, yeah, okay, I'm going to keep turning the page. You know, and the protagonist is Asian. It's kind of interesting to see an Asian artist draw Asian characters and to see how they still, how like an American comic influence comes across. Moving on. Next up is Darkhold Alpha #1. It's written by Steve Orlando with art by Sion Torme, colors by Jesus Bertov, and letters by VC's Clayton Cowell. So this is a long-delayed, resolicited a couple of times miniseries, which features the reemergence of the elder god Chthon or Chthon, or I think it's Chthon. Help me out here.
I've always said Chthon, but I've never heard that outside. So either way, that works for me.
Right. Yeah. Exactly. It's one of those things like, if you've never had to hear someone say it out loud, you just sort of figure it out on your own. But essentially, what we have is kind of the other two magic users in the mainstream Marvel universe that aren't part of the Strange Academy per se. Everyone that we know, because I don't think Wanda is Wanda part of the Strange Academy?
Yeah, she's a teacher.
Okay, so I'll have to amend what I just said, because I thought that I wasn't sure if she was on staff at the Strange Academy,
mm-hmm.
But we definitely get the main tie-in character to Chthon. Because Wanda is, of course, has been in the past a conduit for Chthon in previous stories. And when I say the other magic user that outside of the Strange Academy, who could that be other than Victor Von Doom, the ruler, the king of Latveria? And of course, what do we find is happening? Doom is looking to unearth none other than the Darkhold, the namesake of this, the basically the eponymous book, and all sorts of shenanigans have to come up because of Doom sticking his nose where it doesn't belong in the pages of the Darkhold, and as the person most familiar with the Darkhold, it's up to Wanda to figure out a way to combat the coming of Chthon, and there is a plan here, and it involves getting essentially 5 avatars of certain character aspects to combat Chthon, and it all goes sideways at the end of the issue.
Right, because Doom being Doom, thinking, "Nah, I got this. Don't worry about it. I'll take care of all of this." That doesn't happen, and then they end up having to do like Agent 70 just says. One of the things that kind of struck me about this was that apparently Wanda is having to deal with two people that she didn't want to have anything to do with it anymore. Because of a long time readers would probably possibly know that Wanda and Victor Von Doom had some I guess you could say intimate dealings. He technically used her, and
Yes,
yeah, during around the, I guess what was it, after House of M?
it was Children's Crusade.
With children, I know, but I'm saying, but was that after? Was that after or before House of M? I can't remember. Regardless, Children's Crusade.
That's an excellent question.
Right, because I was like, because I know it was definitely on one side or the other of that event, but I can't remember which one.
That excellent question. I do not know the answer to that. Holy cow!
I want to say it was after, but again, I'm not sure, and I would have to go back and check. Regardless, Children's Crusade is when they had more personal dealings with each other, and of course, as Agent 70 said, Wanda has been a conduit for Triton back in the classic days of the Avengers.
Right.
So
yeah, right.
She
so
kind of knows a thing or two about about both of them.
Right. I just wanted to add a quick note. Do you have anything else to add?
I was just going to say that I'm kind of curious about, because we know, as you said earlier, that this was something that we both said that was this is like pre-COVID or at the early end of COVID.
Yeah, like this was like the spring, I think,
Right.
of 2020.
But
soon after, I think they wanted to solicit it,
right,
and then they just kept having to push it back.
And I'm kind of curious if they had to make any art changes, because now that I'm thinking about it, or maybe it kind of still fell in line, because if you remember correctly, the art for Victorious in this is in line with what's happened in recent issues of Fantastic Four. Which, granted, it's been a couple of issues, so I mean, it's been a few issues since that happened. But I feel like
that's a good point. I was wondering about that. I was like, wait, when did that happen?
Right. So I feel like they might have made an art change, or maybe there was something that was already in the line and they started to do this. But I feel like, yeah, they might have had to go back and make that change.
Yeah, it's a subtle change.
Right.
It's a subtle change. That actually, I bumped on that because I was like, wait, I don't remember when that happened. I'm gonna have to go back. It's recently, because obviously it's right after the wedding.
Right. But being when this was supposedly going to originally be released, was, like we just said, it was kind of slightly before that. So that's kind of interesting.
Right. And also, we're not sure when this falls in the current timeline because of Doom's actions in the pages of Guardians.
And because of Wanda supposedly being dead or not in the pages of X-Men.
Right. And the trial of Magneto and all that stuff. I have to say, though, the one thing I wanted to add was it's nice to see Black Bolt get a little love, because I feel bad for the Inhumans. I know a lot of people like to poop all over, just like Triumph, the insult comic dog. They like to poop all over the Inhumans. I actually don't mind the Inhumans. I know that they have a very problematic past, in the sense that, the whole concept of the Inhuman royal family and the caste system in the in Adelon is difficult for everyone to kind of reconcile. But I always roll with I always ride with Black Bolt. It's such a great, if they use him well, he's such a great character.
Right. Which,
shout out to Saladin Ahmed in that miniseries.
Yeah, I was gonna say, but also it kind of goes back to, because I think that ended before COVID, like probably a little bit before COVID. So I figured they were kind of on the back end of using the Inhumans and Black Bolt, which is why he was probably involved with this book in the first place, I guess.
What are we talking about? The Black Bolt miniseries? That's over a long time ago now.
Well, I know, but what I'm saying is, when this was originally supposed to come out, like this was like at the tail end of when they stopped. Well, this was the tail end.
Well, they have, yeah. I mean, what I was getting at is they really have put the Inhumans on the back burner.
Right.
Now that Disney has reacquired the X-Men movie rights.
Right.
And obviously with the rise of Hoxpox, to kind of like the forefront of the sales, the sales numbers. They've really just ignored the Inhumans, and I feel like they should really, they probably can't support their own series, but at the same time, they should, feature some of these characters more, because it's a crying shame. A lot of them have had major dealings with, the mainstream Marvel universe.
Right.
And, we're not seeing Crystal, we're not seeing Medusa or Black Bolt or Lockjaw. Well, we're actually seeing more of Lockjaw than any of them.
Right. Well, we have anyway. We haven't really seen him as much as we used to, because when he was showing up in Miss Marvel.
Exactly, and like the Pet Avenger stuff.
Right.
But in any event, do you have anything else for Darkhold Alpha?
No, I'm just kind of curious where this
so
go.
Yeah, let me hop over to Nonstop Spider-Man number 5 and the cavalcade of creators on this, because this has been a delayed book, and I'm starting to figure out why.
And we were lied to.
What's that?
No, go ahead.
kind of, and I get what what you mean by that.
Mm-hmm.
This book, Nonstop Spider-Man number 5, is written by Joe Kelly, with pencils by Chris Boccolo, Corey Smith, and Gerardo Sandoval. Inks are by Tim Townsend, Wayne Foucher, Corey Smith, Victor Nava, Victor Lizaba, and Gerardo Sandoval. Colors are by Jim Charalampidis. That's a Greek name for you. And Chris Sotomayor. And letters by VC's Travis Lanham. Hey, I know lots of Greek people, so that's why that one actually rolled off my tongue. But
alrighty.
Yeah, so we get kind of a weird. It's not an ending, right? It's a weird twist to where this story was going.
Right.
And the whole Baron Zemo thing, there's a turnabout, there's a double cross, a betrayal here, and an introduction of a new group of villains, as it were, that basically double cross Baron Zemo, and Spidey basically gets caught in the middle of it.
Mm-hmm.
Spidey is also exposed to this this chemical that or this narcotic that is what he's been trying to stop over the first 4 issues of this book. And what all of that is going on, and we get to a point at the end of this issue where there is a reason for a change in the title of the book going forward,
which maybe says something about Boccolo's art, because this drug, when squashed or gotten rid of in this issue and some issues before this, or whatever the case may be, looks like a bodily fluid. That's not unsettling. But that being said, so yeah, now that I'm thinking about it, I feel like what they've done with this book is kind of akin to what they've been doing with the Ultraman books, and I realize I'm probably only one of us that's been reading those. They basically get to a point, and then like, oh, this is an arc, in the end of an arc, but then we're going to make it into a new miniseries. Unlike the Ultraman stuff, this has a pretty significant enough change to Spidey himself coming out of this issue. And I kind of groaned almost, because I was like, wait, didn't we see this stuff in didn't we see this in Spider Island or something? like why is this happening?
You got me.
But apparently, yeah, so apparently there was a swerve and a curse your inevitable portrayal, like Agent 70 said. So that ends this arc in technically book, and it's going to get renamed into another. I guess I'm going to assume Savage Spider-Man is going to be the name of the book, from what they were saying at the end of this.
Right. And I don't think we saw it in the December solicits, so that means it's probably coming in January or later.
Sure. But
so, yeah. But because we have in our hands the physical December solicits. I think they're over my shoulder. Yeah, I haven't really we talked about them in the news, and I'd only flipped through them a little bit, because a lot of it is just Spidey Beyond stuff that I'm not I'm not all that interested in. But I don't recall seeing anything about Savage Spider-Man, so my guess is that it's going to be that it's probably going to be a January book.
Sure.
But getting back to this book here, I'm disappointed, to be honest, because I like the idea of, you know, the nonstop kind of, you know, what did PC and underscore Dirt call it, like Spidey in the Crank movie.
I feel like yeah. I don't. Well, yeah. We that's definitely been said between a couple of us on this and this. But yeah, and that's where it seemed like it was going to keep going. But yeah,
Which I would have enjoyed.
Yeah, I mean, a couple of
I would have enjoyed it because it was just one of those things that you don't get in the Spencer books.
right. So, and at the end of this issue, they were like, "Well, yeah, we kind of lied to you." You know, and then they go into the whole name change because of what happens at the end of the book and whatnot. So technically, it's not stopping, but it is stopping.
Right. Right.
So
Right.
it's not
Right. Right. Right.
nonstop.
Exactly.
Per se.
Exactly.
So I don't know. It's kind of weird. It's very kind of weird. And yeah, I don't know. This book, like I said, there's been some art. I mean, not art. Well, there's been a couple art shoots, but there's been some writing choices with the characters that I haven't really that I've kind of hit upon.
Well, yeah, it's one of the things that I had a problem with Cody Ziegler in that Miles issue.
Right.
We had, you know, a characterization of Baron Zemo in the earlier issues that just seemed off.
Right. So and that kind of gets tamed down a little bit into this issue, but still, even coming out of this and knowing what they're assuming they're going to do with this going forward, I'm like, I don't know. Like, I'll probably check out the next issue, but I don't know if I'm I don't know if I'm gonna stay on this, whatever this ends up being, unless it ends up being something, you know, interesting. It's too soon to say. Anyway.
Yeah. All right. Last but not least for me is Thor number 17. It's written by Donny Cates with art by Michelle Bandini, colors by Matthew Wilson, and letters by VC's Joe Sabino. So there's actually a bit of a reckoning here between the immediate family of Thor, because we get, you know, what we find out in the last issue is that Angela has called basically a family meeting between Freya, herself, Angela, and Thor and Odin. And they basically, in this issue, kind of hash out some of their issues. And there is a take, or at least a version of a Battle Cat, which is, I think, something that Roddykat will enjoy when he flips to it.
Oh, nice.
And ultimately, there is maybe not a resolution to the whole Phoenix as Thor's mother, because it is touched upon, you know, and in one of those classic, you know, storytelling tropes of, you know, it doesn't matter who your biological mother is, you know, and we already knew that with Freya anyway, because in the mythology she was never Thor's mother anyway.
Right.
So that's essentially how it's treated. So if you're not a student or not familiar with the original Norse myths, we essentially follow the same track. But ultimately, the cliffhanger at the end of this issue, I think, leads into the next story arc with Mjolnir kind of suffering the same fate as Captain America's shield in the United States of Captain America.
Huh. Okay.
So, because remember, the enchantment that prevented people from picking Mjolnir up was on the Fritz.
Okay. Gotcha. Question: you mentioned Angela. Has she actually been a part of this book, or she's just having? Because I'm like, wait, she's been a minute since I've heard that name.
We really haven't seen too much of her since War of the Realms.
Right.
But that wasn't that long ago.
It was long enough. in comic books, that's kind of long enough, because that was like last year. Well, no. Wait, was that late? Was that earlier this year? Last year? It doesn't matter. But it's been a while.
Right. It's hard to listen. Our sense of time is all off. Hello,
Yes.
pandemic.
Right.
So,
Construct.
but ultimately, what Roddykat said is probably closer to the truth than what I think, because it probably has been a while since we've seen Angela in any sort of prominent role. She probably has been in Thor. I just can't recall.
Right.
Um, but I remember the last time we really saw her prominently featured was during War of the Realms.
I'm thinking about the Guardians, but yeah, that's true too.
Oh, that's a good point. No, but I think War of the Realms was after Guardians.
Yes. Well,
Yeah.
after her run of
So,
Guardians, yes.
right. So, all right, that's it for me. Take it away.
All right, here we go. Once upon a time, well, not long ago, there was this book called Transformers Shattered Glass number 2. As I bring up the books, comics, Bink. So, wait, did you do? Never mind. Yeah, okay, we'll come back to that. Creative team: writer Danny Lore, art by Daniel Kana, colors by John Paul Bove, and letters by Neil Uwatake. So this is the new Transformers event, aka hey, here's a new way to sell some toys, because there's some new versions of Transformers in this that I do know for a fact that already have toys coming out, including a Purple Prime. And the crux of it is that I think this is an alternate universe where the Decepticons are not necessarily the good guys, but they're not the evil the evil forces that the Autobots waged their battle against. In fact, it is the Autobots that are in control and are pretty much um warlording. So basically, it's kind of like the reverse take of how I guess a lot of the Transformers has been, where the Autobots were on the losing side of this war battle, whatever case, and the Decepticons had control of Cybertron and whatnot. Um, but the question of this issue is that Starscream finds Megatron, who's been hiding out, not feeling, too high on company, let's say, because of events in this world. And Starscream tries to get him to become the Decepticon leader again. And there's some revisionist history and a couple other things, and some stories that kind of fill in some of that. I believe this is a 5-issue series, and I don't think there's going to be, unless this sells well enough to where they're gonna come back to it. This is pretty much a toy grab, which I'm not gonna lie. There's a couple of men here that I've seen. I was like, yeah, I wouldn't mind having that Transformer. So,
Mm.
but at the end of this, apparently, as things tend to happen in the Transformers universe, Starscream's spark ends up being the key to maybe possibly taking back Cybertron. We'll see. Icon and Rocket, season 1, number 3. Written by, well, Reginald Hudlin gets a credit here, but I saw somewhere where it's like his Reginald Hudlin Entertainment, and I believe the writer is actually Leon Chill. That is the wrong book, because I couldn't really find the credits in said book, and I don't know why. Or whatever credits page in the book, and that's kind of weird. But let's see. Reginald Hudlin and Leon Chills, pencils by Doug Braithwaite, inks by Andrew Curry, and colors by Brad Anderson. So, like I said, this is kind of the retelling reboot of the Milestone, or the Icon and Rocket part of the Milestone Returns series. Um, they are pretty much making a name of themselves and making themselves into public enemy number one, because they've pretty much been going around the world and clearing up the drug trade or drug fields and whatnot. And we've come to find out in this book that the government was actually that has been behind the drug problems of the world. And they don't like the fact that Icon and Rocket are screwing with their money. So they turn to another alien that has some history with Icon, and also Rocket learns the unintended consequences of their actions. because she was the one who kind of spurred this on and saying like, yeah, we could do good. You could do good in the world by doing this and the other. But then Rocket kind of hips her to like, yeah, well, we did all of this, but you know, now you're on people's hit list and this and that and the other, and people are going to come and people won't like you and this and that and the other. So we'll see what happens going forward with that, because someone close to her gets attacked, and I don't know who this lawyer lady is that's been showing up, but she's kind of like a Black She-Hulk, and I'm here for it. So go figure. Superman 78 #2. So this is the book that is of the world of the original Superman movie, which by the way, it was Christopher Reeve's birthday, I believe, yesterday as of this recording, if I'm not mistaken.
Okay.
So good timing. Written by Robert Venditti, art by Wilfredo Torres, colors by Jody Belair, and letters by Dave Lanphier. Oh, no, that's right. That is absolutely right. Excuse me. So like I said, this takes place in the world of Superman 78. This is after the movie, and this is after this is after the events of that movie. So but apparently Lex Luthor got on parole thanks to Superman, and Superman needs his help with this whole brainiac problem that popped up in the first issue. Which, if you know anything about Lex Luthor, not the person you would trust in this, but Superman doesn't know any better, especially at this point. But he is going to tours like, yeah, I'm trusting you, but you know, we'll see about that. But then Brainiac does come back to Earth, come calling, and Superman ends up having to make a choice that's to save Metropolis in the end of this issue. But also we get we get a little glimpse of a familiar armor of Lex Luthor's that we don't get to see, that we never got to see in the movies. So if you know anything about your Lex Luthor history, especially animated versions, you know what I'm talking about. Robin #6, which I thought you were reading this.
I was. I just didn't get to it.
Gotcha.
It's a good thing that you mentioned it, because I guess I'll circle back to it this weekend.
Okay, then I won't give you too much on it, but you already know what's going on in it. But written by Joshua Williamson, art by Gleb Melnikov, colors by Luis Guerrero, and letters by ALW's Troy Pateri. So that whole tournament thing is still going on,
right?
And it's starting in earnest, actually. And a bunch of fights happen. A bunch of fights go on, and it's a pretty fun read. But also, we may be getting a little bit more information about some stuff, particularly with the person who is given putting this tournament on. We don't know that yet, but you know, there's some things happening in this issue that's like that may give away some stuff. I don't know, but regardless, a bunch of fights happen. Damien's Damien.
Right.
And this book is kind of fun. I've been enjoying it so far.
Cool.
Star Wars.
Thanks for mentioning that, because I need to circle back to it.
Yeah, no problem. Yeah, it's because like I said, I figured you had been reading it, so I didn't. So
yeah, I got too tied up with wasting time on Amazing Spider-Man #74.
Oh man, I blew through that first off because I was like, let me just get this shit over with. For hook by hook or crook. Star Wars #17, written by Charles Soule, art by Ramon Rosanas, colors by Rochelle Rosenberg, and letters by VC's Clayton Powell. So this is still that whole war of the bounty hunters thing that is going on. And if you don't know about that, Han Solo, this is between the events of Empire Strikes Back and Return of the Jedi. Han's body is still in carbonite. In fact, he is the main focus of this in a way, because his body's been up for auction, and it has changed hands a couple of different times during the course of this event, and now it is in the hands of the Empire at this point, which we know where the body ends up. So this is just all, you know, at some point we know it's going to get back to where we know it's going to be in Return of the Jedi. But for this issue, we get a whole cat and mouse thing with Luke and Vader. Leia and Lando are still kind of stuck on the Falcon trying to get repairs done because the shuttle that has Han is like right there, but they can't get to him. And apparently we harken back to the Solo movie in a way because Lando's talking to the Falcon. Because if you know anything about the Han Solo movie, you know what's the relationship between Lando and the Falcon. That's all I'll say about that. But also Leia does a pretty good Lando at the end of this also, okay. And I believe, let's see. Oh yeah, Sword number 8 is my next one, and I got one more after this. You didn't read Sword this week? Well, I know you're not really.
No, I've read it. I read it. I just didn't want to include it.
I gotcha. Yeah, that wasn't. Actually, I enjoyed this issue, but it wasn't really a whole lot to it for the overall Krakoan thing. But anyway, written by Al Ewing, art by Guiu Villanova. I'm not apologize if I butchered your name. Color artist Fernando Cifuentes of Portabunker Studios, and letters by VC's Ariana Mayer. I almost said Joe Caramani for some stupid reason. But this is a storm focused book, if you can tell by the cover here. If you're watching the video version, you should sometime. Storm's a badass. If you didn't already know that, then you will know by the end of this book, or even halfway through this book. Because if you don't know what's been going on in the X books, she has been made regent of Araco, which is pretty much Mars. So she has had some challenges. She has been actively challenged in her appointment to regent, and this is a couple of those challenges. And like I said, Storm's badass, and this issue kind of proves just as much. So I've been enjoying it. He's a nice little back shot. Not saying that. Anyway, there's a nice little panel of Storm, a couple of nice panels of Storm in the beginning of this. That's worth checking out. I will say that. I love Storm. That's all I'll say. Last but not least, if that wasn't apparent, I don't know what to tell you. Last but not least, Deathstroke Inc. number 1. And I didn't get the creative team, so that was great. So let me pull that up really, really quickly. Come on. Yeah, man. Here we go. Written by Joshua Williamson. Howard Porter is the artist. Colorist is Hi-Fi. Letterer Steve Wands. So we've heard about this book in the past month or two. Basically, I guess Deathstroke's trying something different. He gets to see whether he's going to be a hero or not. I don't know. He's aligned himself with this group called Trust. And yes, it's an acronym for something because Marvel and DC love their acronyms. But also along for the ride is Black Canary. So their two are paired together. And this is their first mission together. Trust may or may not have some ulterior motives. Black Canary is there for a reason, and like I said, Deathstroke's kind of trying something new, but he's probably got his own machinations going into this. But we'll see how this goes. Like it's kind of interesting so far. I'm kind of curious as the pairing of Deathstroke and Black Canary was going to work out. But so far it is what it is what it seems to be. Whether it goes any further than that or what they plan to do with this book, I don't know. But here we go. And that is it for me.
All right. And before we move on to Clicks of the Week, I wanted to let everyone know that I went and looked up the comic book reading order, the order of these events that we were talking about earlier.
Oh, yeah.
House of M, basically, and where that falls in real-time publishing, timelines.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, comicbookreadingorders.com is helpful. And House of M. Get ready for this. House of M and Decimation. That's circa 2005 and
Okay.
2006.
And where is
Long time ago.
Yeah, and where is
So
Children's
I
Crusade?
will let you know where
Children's Crusade, excuse me.
Children's Crusade comes in.
Yeah.
2010.
Wow. Yeah, that's a little length. A little bit of a length.
Yeah,
Story-wise,
that's a while ago. I can't believe that's 11 years ago now.
Okay, so I was actually right then. So it does actually come after House of M. I didn't think it was that long between the two, but I guess that kind of makes sense. I should go back and read Children's Crusade. I barely remember that one.
It's been a while since I've read that one, so that might be fun to take a look at.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, we'll make that one of the evergreen episodes, right?
All right. I thought we had planned to do it. I feel like I feel like that was.
It might have been on the list.
Yeah,
it might have been on the list before the pandemic lightened just a touch, so that regular comics could come out again.
Right. But yeah, we'll see about if we can pop that in there somewhere. But that being the case, let us go to Clicks of the Week.
Clicks of the Week.
Excuse me. We have. Oh wow, totally forgot about that. Wow. We have at least one pick from one of our absent hosts. Tim's click of the week is Inferno number 1, and I don't think he says anything. No, he didn't say it about it. Oh, I just noticed what he said about Spencer's run of Amazing. That's funny. Which actually slightly surprised me because I thought he liked.
No, I think he kept up with it the way we did in the early part, and he probably let it slide when we should have let it slide.
Yeah, true.
You know,
you're right.
So, and PCN underscore dirt is still trying to catch up on a gigantic stack of books. He let us know with a very descriptive photo how many comics he still has to go through to get caught up because of the summer and the fall. His just him just being behind on his reading.
But he got a new computer. Hey, and yeah, that was like a long box. Just to give you an idea, it looks like a short box. Actually, the long box would probably be a slight exaggeration, but it's a short box of comics.
It's a lot of comics.
That's a lot of comics.
It's a lot of comics. All right, so I will say I am between two books.
Mm-hmm.
Inferno number 1.
Okay.
Right.
Sure.
Did we say what Tim Dog's click of the week was?
Yeah, Inferno number 1.
Right. So that is Tim Dog 98's pick. I'm actually between that and Good Asian number 5 because I love how this is a real turning point in the story. Mm-hmm. And I love that halfway through we really get a much better sense of the character, his pathos, and how everything is starting to fit together.
Okay.
We're not dragging out this kind of murder mystery thing forever. I mean, we are. We're not. It's gonna be a while, but we actually get a lot better grasp of how these characters fit together as a result of this issue. But I think I'm gonna back up Tim's vote and go with Inferno number 1 because of the fact that it's going to make me go back and reread Hoxpox, the original Hoxpox series, so that I can refresh my recollection.
And now there's a collection with both of them together. That would make for a good. I am actually kind of curious of the order they have that in. Actually, well, I mean, it's probably in the obviously they go back and forth between each other with whatever.
In what in Marvel Unlimited or in trade paperback?
Trade.
Oh, okay. No, in Marvel Unlimited they have them. They don't have it in clicking order, but in all issues order they have them alternating.
Sure. But I believe there was a couple of issues that kind of like stuck with one book and then went back to the other or something like that. And, if I remember correctly, I don't know. So, okay. For myself, I'm definitely kind of teetering on Inferno because it really was good. And amazing. I'm just kidding. No. Don't.
No, I was about to say, bite your tongue, man.
No.
I was about to say, if you said Gun Honey just because of the page, the 2-page spread I showed you, I'd be all right. I understand that.
Yeah, that was some good stuff out there.
And you know what's funny about that?
What's that?
Is you could tell that is not Greg Land because that is not something he traced. Shots fired at Greg Land. I'm just giving you time to decide.
Yeah, no, that's pretty good. Star Wars actually wasn't bad with that whole chase scene, but yeah, it's either out of Inferno, Miles, and actually it's probably out of just those two, honestly. Robin was actually a pretty good one this week. So you know what? I'm as much as I loved, as much as I enjoyed Inferno, and I do echo the sentiment that I feel like, yeah, going back and reading Hoxpox this morning, even though I feel like I have a fairly decent working knowledge of what happened then, I feel like going back and reading that too. But I'm going to go with Miles as my pick. Miles Morales, Spider-Man 30, because it was fun. Like, yeah, there wasn't like it. There were no real stakes in that, and it was just a couple of fun. There was a fun main story and a couple of backups, for celebrating his 10 years. I enjoyed it.
Right, it's the type of anniversary issue I don't like.
Mm-hmm.
When it's all a celebration.
Right.
If you're gonna do it, have it be the beginning of a big story or the culmination of a big story.
Right. Yeah, I don't have that big of an issue with that happening, and I guess it kind of depends on the book too, because if it's building up to something and they just like swerve to something and it's just all of this, then yeah, that's something that. But this book has been kind of like feel like it's been between arcs, for the last couple of issues, and now like you said earlier, it's going to get into another arc after this for whatever reason. So. There we go, folks. Clicks of the week. Now we're going to go into the news section, but first, an ad read.
Our first ad read of the night is for Blue Apron's meal delivery service. Blue Apron, fresh ingredients and incredible recipes delivered weekly to your door. Skip the grocery store and make incredible meals at home with Blue Apron. Always shipped free right to your home. And now the listeners of the Comic Book Chronicles can get $30 off your first Blue Apron order. To place your first order with $30 off and to help keep our show free for you, go to our network website at cspn.us. That's cspn.us. Then click on the Keep Our Podcast Free link at the top of the page. From there, scroll down to the Blue Apron link and sign up for your first order. Blue Apron through cspn.us. Do it today. And now we get into the news.
And we start off, as we do about this time, with the cinematic news. First up, Superman animated series Blu-ray box set suffers a delay. So you remember us talking about that Blu-ray set that for Superman, the complete animated series from a while back, which, by the way, you can watch that stuff on HBO Max for the time being. Is going to arrive on October 26th of this year because of production delays, according to this article. They didn't elaborate on it, but hey, there is that. So if you're looking forward to that, then it's going to be a little while longer than what initially said. Next up,
Warner Brothers is seeking to expand its DC content on HBO Max. And Red Hood may be the next character to get a solo film on the streaming service. According to that hashtag show, a Red Hood film script is in the works. The movie would adapt the comic story A Death in the Family, which saw Jason Todd killed by the Joker after readers voted for his demise, and the character would resurface years later as the violent vigilante Red Hood. who would ironically become a fan favorite anti-hero. Okay.
Yeah, people like assholes for some stupid reason. I don't understand it. Anyway, the Flash's Supergirl to headline her own HBO series. This, I believe, this is coming from the same place as that last story. So it is a report. And it says here, after debuting in next year's The Flash movie, the DCU Supergirl will reportedly land her own HBO Max series. That hashtag show is reporting that Sasha Calles, I guess, I don't know if it's Calles or Kales, Girl of Steel, who will arrive in the Flashpoint-inspired solo movie for the Scarlet Speedster, is due for her own TV show, which is weird considering Supergirl on the CW is ending this year. I don't understand why they do this stuff. Anyway, the series is apparently being worked on at the moment, with word that it will explore the character's backstory and detail just how she winds up in the Flash. Though details on that film are scarce, it seems the plot will inspire a lot of questions about the Kryptonian, which the show will seek to answer. According to the report, Superman will not be appearing on the show, unlike the CW show. But again, this is also, yeah, this is, we all know that DC's been doing different things with their movie and their television stuff. And since this is Flashpoint inspired, I guess this is how they can get away with that. I don't know. Next up,
HBO Max and Cartoon Network are bringing a month-long Scooby-Doo celebration to fans with the reveal of Scoob-tober in October. The Scoob-tober programming event kicks off on Friday, October 1st, which is today, according to the timing of this part of the recording. Mm-hmm. On HBO Max and Cartoon Network, the Halloween-themed event features new episodes of Scooby-Doo and Guess Who, Scooby-Doo movies, the Cartoon Network premiere of Scoob, and much more. Scooby-Doo and Guess Who has a star-studded lineup including Cher, Sean Astin, Jessica Biel, Terry Bradshaw, Lucy Liu, Jason Sudeikis, and Run DMC. The series sees the Mystery Inc. crew team up with some of the biggest names in pop culture to solve mysteries. What? No Harlem Globetrotters?
I know, right? So I've actually seen an episode of this fairly recently, and I said that exact same thing because, as a matter of fact, I was talking to a friend of mine when I was watching it, and it was like, that's weird, but I mean, not outside the realm possible of things that happen in the Scoopiverse. But yeah, no Harlem Globetrotters. Weird. Also, since it is October 1st, I'm probably gonna forget about this later, but Happy Inktober to people who are going to be doing that whole thing.
Yeah, let's see if I can make it through another Inktober. I laid down some pencils and I have some ideas for the first week, so we'll see how long it takes me to fall behind. Mm-hmm. Also, for anyone who remembers that Green Day song, "Wake Up, September Has Ended."
Indeed. And also, speaking of, I don't know if they're in the audience right now, but I know a couple of friends of mine, a lovely set of lovely set of twins, rather, who have a birthday today. So I don't know if they ever see this. Happy birthday to them. Let's see. This is me. CW reveals season finale dates for Supergirl, Riverdale, Stargirl, and more. So this is, like I was just saying earlier, CW has announced when the season finales for some of its biggest series will end, including Supergirl, Riverdale, Stargirl, etc., etc. According to a press release from the CW, we're going to skip some of this stuff and get to the meat of the fact that Stargirl Season 2 concludes on November 2nd. Supergirl Season 6, which is the last season, ends on November 9th. And then there's a bunch of other CW shows. I guess we can count Riverdale in this since it is technically a comic book show. Riverdale Season 5 is going to conclude on October 6th. So there you go.
Next up, a new report seemingly confirmed that Disney Plus's upcoming Ms. Marvel series has been delayed for a 2022 release. Variety senior entertainment writer Adam B. Vary recently posted an update regarding the release schedule for the show. Quote, he's confirmed that What was obvious to most Marvel Studios observers, Ms. Marvel has moved from a late 2021 release on Disney Plus to 2022, he tweeted. Yeah, like we've said in recent shows regarding this, there just wasn't enough time on the slate in 2021 to fit the show, and so it makes sense to push it a bit to 2022.
Right. So we still got the whatever's left. Well, the last episode of What If. We got Hawkeye coming up. We got Eternals coming up. So I think that's. Oh wait, so we still got Spidey also, I guess.
Right. There's a lot coming still. It's only October, but in terms of fitting it in, especially with Hawkeye coming in during the holidays, because it's supposed to be themed with the holidays, where else would they put this Ms. Marvel show?
Right. So yeah, like you said, makes sense. Next up. Oh, I'll take. Well, I was about to say you could take this, but I'll take it. Miss Marvel's star confirms her character was a Hajib. Good job. Excuse me. I always do that. Sorry, you're right. One of the characters in Miss Marvel's Disney Plus series will wear a hijab, just like in the comics, this is cool to hear. Yasmin Fletcher, who portrays Nakia Bahadir on Miss Marvel, was asked if her character would wear a religious veil on the show, as she does in the comics. Yes, I will be, quote unquote. Fletcher answered, this character means so much to me, so I look forward to seeing the impact she makes on the younger generation. So, cool. Next up,
Marvel's animated What If has packed a lot into its relatively short episodes, but that was not always the plan. Head writer AC Bradley appeared on Deadline's Hero Nation podcast to discuss the show, and while the anthology has been generally well received by fans and critics, one complaint has been how much story is crammed into each episode. But according to Bradley, part of the runtime is due to the pandemic, though the comics also informed the decision to a degree. Okay.
Yeah, I think this might have been before the show. We talked about this, or it might have been when we were talking about What If, but yeah. So there you go. Speaking of, what if Boss reveals the Captain America episode Marvel would never make? So what if executive producer and head writer AC Bradley revealed that the alternate universe Marvel storyline she wanted to tell was basically a crossover between Captain America and the West Wing. And I believe, can't remember if we mentioned, but there was a little bit in this last episode where we see the fight go into a world where Captain America was president.
Oh, was being inaugurated.
Yeah, it was being inaugurated, which started off as a what if in the comics, but also ended up being an actual thing in the Ultimate Universe. So it was kind of funny, which also brings me back to an article that I had drawn up a while ago about what if stories that end up being somewhat canon. But that's another time for another place if I ever get this other site off the ground, whatever. Anyway, around 19 minutes, 13 seconds into our interview on Deadline's Hero Nation podcast, Bradley was asked if there was ever going to be a TV version of the classic What If comic story if Captain America had been elected president, by Mike Barr and Herb Trimpe. Is it Trimpe?
I think it is Trimpe.
Yeah. Bradley said she pitched her West Wing-inspired version of this premise for both seasons 1 and 2 of What If, but it was ultimately passed on both times, as she doubts it will ever get made, even if What If gets renewed for further seasons. So there you go. I feel like I've seen somewhere where they said that they might even start delving into more comic book stuff, and because I think the one not necessarily crutch, but the one thing they had to stick to was the MCU at this point. So I don't know if and actually they kind of given the zombie stuff, because that wasn't exactly in the MCU, unless you count that one scene in Spider-Man, but that I feel like that doesn't really count. But regardless, next up,
Moon Girl and Devil Dinosaur is, quote, awesome and coming soon, according to the show's executive producer. While Marvel's series on Disney Plus currently demand much attention, there have also been various animated shows over the years spread out across Disney affiliates that are not directly tied to the continuity of the MCU. One of the most recent examples was MODOK on Hulu, but Disney Channel and Disney XD have been the primary hub for Marvel's animated fare. Since 2012, Disney XD, blah, 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 blah. In 2018, it was announced that Marvel was developing Moon Girl and Devil Dinosaur series. It's being developed by none other than Lawrence Fishburne. Since the cast was announced early this year, we haven't gotten very many updates, so apparently it's still coming soon.
Sure. Marvel Studios recruits Harley Quinn storyboard artist to direct mystery project. Liza Singer, known for their work as a storyboard artist on DC's Harley Quinn animated series, announced that they have joined Marvel Studios as director for an upcoming mystery project. Singer, who previously worked on animated projects for Warner Brothers, Netflix, Titmouse, and others, announced that they have been signed on to Marvel Studios to direct an unannounced upcoming series.
Scratch that 1 second. Not scratch what Roddykat said, but scratch from that article that we were talking about, Moon Girl and Devil Dinosaur. Apparently, fans are looking towards February 2022 as a possible release window.
Okay, sure.
Is at the very end. Talk about burying the lead. I had to look at the article.
Gotcha. Singer broke the news on Twitter, sharing what they could about the mysterious new project, along with an image of the Marvel Studios logo. They didn't identify the property they'll be working on, but they expressed enthusiasm for the new role, stating, "I'm so excited to share that I'm starting a new journey today as director over at Marvel Studios. It's going to be an awesome and special team, and I'm feeling just incredibly excited." So, yeah. We'll see. I guess we'll see at some point what this mystery project is going to be. Next up.
All right, spoiler alert for the Shang-Chi movie, because Roddykat still hasn't watched it.
Yeah.
But there is from journalist Jeff Yang, who is part of the They Call Us Bruce podcast, which I do listen to on a regular basis, spoke about his experience on the podcast as the cultural consultant for Shang-Chi. And during the talk, he teased that Tony Leung's character is going to make additional appearances in the MCU, period.
You'll never see it coming.
Yeah.
He won't sound like that, I'm sure. Scarlett Johansson, Disney come to terms over Black Widow's lawsuit. So
this is literally dropped today, this news.
Yeah, like right before we started recording. So thanks to Agent 70 for peeping that. Scarlett Johansson and Disney have settled their breach of contract lawsuit over the release of Black Widow. The terms of the settlement have not been disclosed. Quote unquote, "I am happy to have resolved our differences with Disney," said Johansson, according to The Hollywood Reporter. "I'm incredibly proud of the work we've done together over the years and have greatly enjoyed my creative relationship with the team. I look forward to continuing our collaboration in the years to come," which pretty much tells me she got a lot of money. I could be wrong, but that whole sentence structure just is like, "Yep, I got."
Yeah, it reeks of satisfaction.
Exactly. I got what I deserve.
She got the bag, and she's more than happy with what she got.
Yep.
Because she has additional projects with Disney that she's looking forward to.
Yep. We are good here. So good. Now, if they can only settle that other thing that's going on with them right now. Anyway, next up, so this is some spoilers that we talked about already, with regards to Star Wars Visions, where Star Wars debuted a new lightsaber color and power that could change the Jedi and Sith with regard to the colors that the lightsaber would take on, depending on the character's affinity and or affiliation. So we talked about that earlier. No need to belabor that point. But it's still
you
cool.
got next.
Yep. But it's still cool. Diego Luna says Star Wars Andor has finished shooting and to expect familiar faces, quote unquote. A smile widens on Diego Luna's face when asked about what's ahead for his Star Wars character Cassian Andor in the upcoming, I don't know what I'm talking like that, in the upcoming Disney Plus series Star Wars Andor. The cheeky grin is a combination of anticipation, excitement, and a splash of secrecy, because those Star Wars snipers, just like those Disney snipers, are hell. Regarding the 12-issue project he executive produced and stars in, set to be released in 2022. You definitely see familiar faces. Luna told Deadline about Andor. While promoting the return of his Amazon Prime Video original series, Penny Circle. I don't know Spanish, folks, or whatever. On October 8th, I can tell you, I can tell you about this project like no other because I can't spoil the ending if you've seen Star Wars if you've seen Star Wars Rogue One already. No matter what I say, I can't ruin the ending. I mean, I guess that's true because that was a pretty finite ending on Rogue One, at least from what we could tell. So there you go. So yeah, 2022. Catch it.
Next up, Disney has revealed that Star Wars: The Book of Boba Fett will premiere on Disney Plus on December 29th, 2021, which will be here before you know it.
Yeah, I'm kind of looking forward to that. We're still not entirely sure what exactly that's going to be, but hey. Gina Carano's Mandalorian Fallout indirectly killed planned Lucy Lawless Star Wars project, according to this article. Xena Warrior Princess star Lucy Lawless. I like the way they still going to Xena when she's done with many other things, but okay. Says the fallout from Gina Carano's Mandalorian firing indirectly hurt her own mystery Star Wars project. Quote unquote, well, to be honest with you, I was already in discussions about something on. It wasn't The Mandalorian, something Star Wars affiliated. Lawless told Metro.co.uk, reflecting on how fans were pushing her to replace Carano as Cara Dune, which actually I never thought about that, but yeah, sure. It might have hurt me in some way because they couldn't hire me because it would seem to be pandering to. I'm just guessing here. I don't know anything, but in some way it can't be helpful. Because if they pander to this fan group, then how are you going to pander to the other fan group? Do you know what I mean? I guess, sure.
Not really, but okay.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I guess they're basically saying like, hey, if you give people the Snyder cut, they're gonna want more Snyder cut. I'm assuming that's what that means.
I guess.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know if that actually means that or not, but yeah, sure. Next up,
I was about to say, is that like not negotiating with terrorists?
in some, you know what? In some ways, I get that because yeah, there are people who be like, they should do this, they should do that. This is the way things should be, and those people should not be,
right.
listened to. But I don't know. I feel like it's kind of different for that.
Listen,
I don't know.
All right, moving on. Next up, Russell T. Davies, actually, showrunner of the modern Doctor Who showrunner of the modern Doctor Who return in 2005 has just been announced to be returning once more to lead the show in 2023, replacing an exiting Chris Chibnall. And my response is, who?
Oh, Doctor Who fans know who Russell T. Davies is.
Shots fired, Doctor Who fans.
Some people like the article writer, are not really too thrilled about him returning. Some people, I'm sure, are fine with it. I'm like, I don't know how to feel about it. Actually, I haven't really been keeping up with the show, like I used to. But yeah, but it's the 60th anniversary. I don't know if that was the real reason behind it. It was because nobody else wanted it. I don't really know, or whatever the case may be. Like I said, some people like RTD's run. Who's to say? Next up, My Hero Academia Season 6 confirmed will adapt a Paranormal Liberation War arc. If you know anything about what that even means, I do not.
Roddykat is not up on this. I actually am ahead of Roddykat on this because he has not picked up on My Hero Academia at all, if I'm not mistaken.
That is correct. And it says here, My Academia. Well, this part I didn't know, but yeah, I'm not up on that yet. My Hero Academia will return for a 6th season. The popular superhero shonen anime confirmed another season on its official Twitter account shortly after the 25th and final episode of season 5 aired. The new season will adapt the Paranormal Liberation War arc for the manga, which sees the world's pro heroes and the students of UA High School engaged in all-out war. So Civil War? Oh no, with the Meta
Nope.
Liberation Army. It's always a liberation army. A group that has united all of the show's supervillains under one leadership under the twisted Tamura Shigaraki.
Shigaraki, right?
Yes. In fact, I feel like I saw a video that was talking about this, and I was like, "Well, I have no idea what's going on here." But okay, that sounds interesting. A short video clip for the announcement of season 6 teases a long-awaited showdown between Shigaraki, who is the protege of the alien villain. Oh, excuse me, of the villain, All for One. Wait, what? Never mind. And a series of self-sacrificing.
This is one of the few times where I know something that Roddykat doesn't about anime.
Sure. Right.
Because I'm reading this, I'm like, yeah, I know.
Right.
And Roddycat's just like, huh?
Like I know
What does
I know
this mean?
names. Right. I know names and I know like very early stuff going into but I didn't like I haven't actually watched the show. Well, actually I watched like the first couple episodes regardless Deku's coming back and all everybody else, and so yeah, that's a thing. Does it say?
Right. And if you're up on the show, they the cliffhanger ending is the setup for the Paranormal Liberation War. So
gotcha.
it's very much on Front Street at the end of the episode. So
it says here Funimation will give World Hero Mission, which is the movie that is coming up. Says Funimation will give the movie a limited theatrical run in the United States and Canada on October 29th. And season 6 doesn't really say. Yeah, doesn't really say, but let us assume early 2022, if not at the end of this year, which would be weird. Next up.
Oh, you mean the movie?
No, the movie, they said the movie is the 29th, but I'm talking about season 6.
Right. It's still gonna be a while before it hits Funimation, so
right.
I'll have to wait for that. I don't know if I'm going to run to see this in the theater, but yeah, I'm into it, so it's fun. Next up, the mystery of when Demon Slayer season 2's release date has been solved at last, and as promised, it will indeed be making it out in 2021. Funimation has announced that it's turning the smash hit Mugen Train feature film into a 7-episode series that will start airing on October 10th. And it's not just the movie chopped up into small bits, but is going to include 70 new scenes, new music tracks, new open and ending animation, episode previews, and new theme songs. So basically, it extends the 2-hour-long movie, which would be roughly 6 20-minute episodes, into a 7-episode series. So there is a good chunk of footage that adds onto this. The rest of this article also says that the really new content for Demon Slayer is going to premiere on December 5th and go with an hour-long premiere and then go from there.
Right. So we were talking about.
I watched Mugen Train. Have you watched Mugen Train?
I have not even watched Demon Slayer, the first season.
Oh, you're behind on Demon Slayer too. That's 2 animes. That I'm ahead of Roddykat on.
Indeed. Yeah, I think Demon Slayer is probably gonna be my next one to hit up, but I'm not sure.
It's less. It's fewer episodes than My Hero. That's the thing.
Well, yeah, that's true because it's only 26 plus the movie. So we
right.
were talking about this earlier before the show, and they're basically doing this like the start of Dragon Ball Super, where they basically broke up Battle of the Gods and Resurrection of F, I believe, into actual shows.
Right.
But it's pretty much the same story beats of the movies. So makes sense, I guess, kinda. Regardless, if you hadn't seen Mugen Train, then hey. I mean, I feel like if you're a fan of Demon Slayer, you've already have. So, whether this puts you off or not, who's to say? Or whether you just watch it again and just kind of ease on into the new stuff.
Right. I mean, I'm mildly annoyed at that, but at the same time, if they're gonna repackage it, I'm in between big anime run, or at least current anime shows. So I forget when they're gonna drop Attack on Titan. So Um,
We talked about that, and I can't remember either. But
yeah, I can't remember, but ultimately, that's sooner rather than later.
right,
You know, dropping something some relatively new content for Demon Slayer, so that's good news for me.
right. And they did say there was going to be some new scenes and music and whatnot in it, so maybe it's something that's going to add to Mugen Train. We'll see. Um, Ultraman Season 2 will feature the return of the 6 Ultra Brothers. So Ultraman Season 2, which will feature the return of, like I just said, the Ultra crossover team, the 6 Ultra Brothers. The brothers were revealed during Netflix's Tutorman event on September 25th. The Ultraman section of the event was hosted by Ryohei Kimura, who plays the role of Shinjiro Hayata in the series. The 6 Ultra Brothers. Hey, it's an Ultraman thing. If you don't know about Ultraman, I don't know what to tell you. There's a lot to it. So, no details were revealed on how all of these new Ultraman will fit into the world and the story of the Netflix anime, which takes place in the unique continuity that branches off from the original 1966 Ultraman Tokusatsu series, but ignores all of the sequels and spin-off series that were released in the many years that followed it, and may not have anything to do with the current slate of comic books that Marvel are putting out. I don't know because I haven't really watched the first season. Netflix now lists the series as coming out in 2022, while the previously announced a slightly more specific spring 22 premiere date for the series. Next up.
Next up, William Shatner's Tech War novel series is set to become, and former comic book series, is set to become a mixed reality adult animation show produced by Shatner through his Shatner universe, together with Pure Imagination Studios. According to Deadline, the new series will be developed and written by Matt Miknovets, who has previously served as a writer on Star Wars Rebels, Star Wars The Clone Wars, and the more recent Disney Plus show, Star Wars The Bad Batch. Okay. The plan is to adapt the sci-fi world of the Tech War novels to bring it to the screen as a mixed reality adult animated series. Okay.
Okay. Actually, you doing that just reminded me of a recent video I saw where Shatner was with basically critiquing other people's impressions of him. And yeah, it was as silly as you might think it was. But anyway, I guess that's something like Tech War stuff. I've never really got into that, but sure, it's a thing. Last but not least, in some sad news, Gogo 13 creator Takeo Saito passes away at age 84. So Takeo Saito, the creator of the long-running and highly influential Gogo 13 manga, has passed away at 84, like I said, from pancreatic cancer. Yahoo News Japan is reporting that the celebrated author and Gekiga artist passed away on September 24th. Saito was best known for Gogo 13 manga, as we said, which was first published in 1968, which recently set the record for longest running ongoing manga series with over 200 collected volumes. Gogo 13 is also the second best-selling manga series of all time, surpassed only by Ichiro Oda's One Piece. That's a lot of freaking One Piece, also.
I was about to say that's one of those things where I have no idea if I'm ever going to jump into that.
Yeah, that's a hard proposition. I've
That's a tough one.
Yeah, I've watched some One Piece. I don't know if I can do it. And it's still going, so that's kind of ridiculous. Anyway, the manga celebrated its 50th anniversary in 2018. In 2003, the Japanese government awarded Saito with a Medal of Honor with purple ribbon for his contributions to the art. So, and yes, some folks might know that Gogo 13 was made into an anime many moons ago, and a couple of long live action movies. I definitely remember the anime, the anime movie. I don't necessarily remember the live actions, but according to this, recently passed Sonny Chiba was played Gogo 13 in those movies, and I want to hunt those down now. So, anywho, Next, we're now going to go into the comic book news.
Meanwhile, at the Hall of Justice.
Denny O'Neil and Joe Quesada's Batman Sword of Azrael up for auction. So the short story here is that, yeah, I guess it's some artwork from Batman Sword of Azrael. That is, I guess, had also been minted. Is up for auction in the 2021. Oh, well, I guess it's already done because it's passed by this point. September 26th to 27th auction from Heritage Auctions. Don't know what it went for at this point, but apparently it probably went for some good money. Next up,
I have that book still. Sword of Azrael, I think. The first appearance of Azrael.
yeah.
All right. Fans of DC's recent YA graphic novels like Teen Titans Raven and Teen Titans Beast Boy should be excited because writer Cami Garcia has 2 new books in the works, including a new Teen Titans story focused on Robin, or should we say Robins. There is Teen Titans Robin, which spotlights more than one of Batman's sidekicks. Artist Gabriel Piccolo is returning for this new Teen Titans book, which is the 4th collaboration between those two. The book spotlights original Robin Dick Grayson as well as Bruce Wayne's son Damian. Garcia is also teaming with artist Isaac Goodhart for Constantine Distorted Illusions. So that's an interesting YA graphic novel character for you.
Yeah, right. I love Gabriel Piccolo's art. I have since I've come across his Instagram like a couple of years ago. So I'm glad he's been getting some steady work. I haven't read any of these. In fact, I think one came out this week. Might not have read that. Beast Boy Loves Raven came out this week. So, but I haven't really read any of them. Anyway, DC offers NFT cover collections to fandom registrants. This thing really needs to go away. Although it previously teamed with a partner to create a series of digital-only Batman black and white statues tied to non-fungible tokens, that's what NFTs stand for if you didn't know, DC is now teaming up with Palm NFT Studios to create what the publisher is calling the first collection of NFTs on October 5th. Using what it called Palm's proprietary environmentally sustainable and energy-efficient technology, the NFT collection will highlight DC's history, character catalog, and diversity of its storytelling according to the publisher. The publisher will be hand-selected. The collection will be hand-selected by DC publisher and chief creative officer and iconic artist, according to this article, Jim Lee, as DC is calling a thank you and invitation to its fans to attend the 2nd edition of DC Fandom on October 16th. Fans who register for the event will be able to collect a free NFT along with securing the ability to unlock a second by sharing on social media. Okay. Next.
Alrighty, next up, multiple Eisner Award-winning writer Tom King and artist Greg Smallwood take aim at Christopher Chance, aka the Human Target, in issue 1 of 12 in a stylish Hitchcockian thriller. So this is a DC book that is set to come out on November 2nd.
Yes. So yeah, Human Target is probably a well lesser known DC character who has actually had a live action show on TNT. So I don't know if that tells you anything, but sure. Harry Osborn Goes to Hell for Nick Spencer's finale in Amazing Spider-Man 74 preview. We've already talked about this. Let us move
on. Inferno number 1, as we talked about earlier, is available, and the events of Inferno and X-Men: The Trial of Magneto seem to be out of step with each other, but so Marvel Comics stepped in to clarify the timeline, at least vaguely, and basically said Inferno largely takes place after the events of X-Men: The Trial of Magneto. A Marvel spokesperson confirmed to Newsarama.
Which actually makes sense because there was a panel or two in Inferno that was like, oh yeah, that's the thing that was mentioned in the Trial of Magneto.
Right.
So there you go. Next up is Marvel's Avengers Spider-Man DLC will have story and cutscenes. So Crystal Dynamics, the developer behind Marvel's Avengers, have confirmed that the PlayStation exclusive Spider-Man DLC will have story content and cutscenes when it makes its long-awaited debut. As spotted by the Crystal Dynamics senior producer Dan Matlock responded to a fan's question on the official Marvel Avengers Discord server that asked whether or not everyone's favorite webhead will come with his own storyline. "Quote unquote, Spider-Man is what we call an event, so he will have cutscenes and a story for sure," Matlock replied. I'm not sure why this was doubted, but okay, sure. Next up,
Marvel Spider-Man number 2. This is video game stuff. Is set to be a much darker game than Insomniac's previous entry in the franchise. Speaking on the latest episode of This Week in Marvel, Bill Roseman, the company's creative vice president, shed some light on the upcoming PlayStation exclusive without giving away too much. He confirmed that the game is going to be a grimmer experience featuring a heavier tone in comparison to both the first game and the Miles Morales spin-off game. He basically compared this to this second volume as the Empire Strikes Back of the Spider-Man video games.
to which I would never thought I would get tired of people comparing things to, but I'm starting to. But hey, I'm looking forward to this regardless. Wizards of the Coast is making a big budget G.I. Joe game. Wizards of the Coast. Yes, folks, the people behind Magic the Gathering. Yeah. But also, wait, aren't they owned by Hasbro? Anyway, regardless, Megatoy brand Hasbro has, through its game division, Wizards of the Coast, opened a video game studio that is quote-unquote led by industry veterans from WB Games and other AAA studios. That's according to the job description attached to several listings for new roles. The studio just referred to as New Raleigh Durham Studio. Ooh, that's close. Will be making a G.I. Joe game as its first project. Hey, if y'all are hiring, I hook me up. I don't know what I could do. The job ads call it a AAA third-person action adventure game, as well as confirming it will be multi-platform. Qualifications mentioned in the listing for 4 roles: technical director, art director, lead game designer, and lead animator. As for experience with Unreal Engine, as well as knowledge of broad video game elements like progression and exploration and mechanics. And this article goes on. I'm just going to sit here and say that, look, Wizards of the Coast, known for Magic the Gathering, great, awesome. They definitely have been getting into other video game properties because they came out earlier this year with that Dungeons and Dragons Dark Alliance game. It was okay. If you told me that this was going to be a collectible card game like Magic the Gathering, I would be all for this. I'm kind of suspect on the on their AAA offer so far. Their actual game offering so far, but we'll see. It's got to be better than that other G.I. Joe game that came out late last year, and that Transformers Battlegrounds game. They were horrible.
Oh no.
Yeah, I played the Transformers one. It was not great. I played through that thing. Like it was Transformers and XCOM. You would think that would be great. It was terrible. Anyway, next up, and it wasn't by them, so that's beside the point. Next up,
George Lucas has joined the Galactic Empire. It's tragic, but it's true, since the newest figure in Hasbro's Star Wars The Black Series toy line has George Lucas sporting stormtrooper armor and an E11 blaster rifle. So it's the newest plastic incarnation of George Lucas, and it's going to arrive next year in 2022, just in time for Lucasfilm's 50th anniversary, in commemoration of the founder of the company that gave us all Star Wars. In addition to the blaster, he comes with a removable helmet and a likeness that is not particularly flattering, but what are you going to do?
Yeah, he's a little short for a stormtrooper. Probably not. I don't know.
See, I love that the article says, "What can you do?" and I gotta Brooklynize it, and I'm like, yeah, what are you gonna do?
Nice. Star Wars droids is Boba Fett, R2D2, and C3PO go vintage with new action figures. Some Star Wars favorite Star Wars characters just got the vintage toy treatment thanks to a new collection celebrating droids, the adventures of R2D2 and C3PO, which is now on Disney Plus, by the way. An animated series that aired in the late 80s and whose theme song slaps. Released by Hasbro as a part of the Lucasfilm 50th celebration, the latest Star Wars vintage collection line includes vintage depictions of Boba Fett, R2D2, and C3PO, including a special 6-inch Black Series version of Boba, according to The Nerdist. Each of the 4 figurines come individually wrapped in packaging inspired by the classic Kenner toys. It says if you are watching the video version, you can see. I remember having an R2D2, not necessarily from this particular thing, but the R2D2 from it kind of looked like this. It's kind of cool. But yeah, here's the packaging and here's the figures for those. There's the Boba Fett one. You just saw the C3PO. There you go. Next.
Next up, on the surface, 2 Star Wars characters that have no reason to be mashed up are Ahsoka Tano and C3PO. Artist Gabriel Dishaw, though, has created an unforgettable mashup of Anakin's droid and Padawan and named it Ahsoka T3PO, which IO9 excitedly debuted on the website. And Roddykat is showing you some photos. That's kind of creepy.
It very much is kind of creepy. It's also got what's this Louis Vuitton thing that's at the base of it. I do not know, but yeah, it's kind of creepy. Move right along. Horror legend Bela Lugosi lands the role of a lifetime in this peek at a new graphic biography, which I believe came out this week, actually. From the illustrator and cartoonist Corinne Shadme, The Twilight Man, Rod Serling, and The Birth of Television, comes a graphic biography, Lugosi, the rise and fall of Hollywood's Dracula. An exploration of the screen legend's life in the same rich black and white tones that shaded most of his most famous on-screen performance. As the book's title suggests, just because Lugosi was a star, forever associated with Bram Stoker's creation Count Dracula, as seen in Todd Browning's 1931 Universal classic, that doesn't mean his life was charmed. So yeah, this article goes on talking with the writer, the writer illustrator, or yeah, the cartoonist illustrator of this about said thing. And like I said, I believe it did come out this week if you're interested in that. Next.
Okay. All right, it's House of Slaughter, right?
Mm-hmm.
Following record-breaking order numbers, Boom Studios' Something is Killing the Children spin-off series, House of Slaughter, has delayed its release of its first issue by 1 week. Boom explained that retailers ordered 460,000 copies of House of Slaughter #1, making it the, quote, best-selling original comic book series in Boom Studios history after Keanu Reeves' Berserker. In order to accommodate the volume of orders and ensure quality, House of Slaughter #1, previously slated for release on October 20th, is now going to come out 1 week later on Wednesday, October 27th.
Cool. Last but not least, Charlie Brown and Linus take a trip to Bloom County. Berkeley Breathed has brought a classic comic book strip duo to his Bloom County strip on Facebook. With Charlie Brown and Linus Van Pelt from Charles M. Schultz's Peanuts making a cameo alongside Bill the Cat. Breathed's character Opus the Penguin has been lamenting the loss of his orange pussycat, Bill, for several weeks now, languishing in his bathtub to cope. However, in the comic from September 23rd, Opus finally pulls himself together to, quote-unquote, confront my losses in a stupid pandemical. Opus begins to worry about Bill's state of mind, stumbling about an unfamiliar world, confused, discombobulated, he muses, closing the soliloquy on his knees in front of the steps of Bloom County boarding house. The final panel reveals Bill wrapped in Linus's security blanket. Linus strikes a familiar pose, grasping the blanket and sucking his thumb with eyes closed. Nearby, Charlie Brown looks on and seems to be taking issue with the situation. So that's cool. That's kind of neat. Little comic strip crossover there. And that is it, folks, for the news and the end of the show. We have one more ad read to go.
All right, our last ad read of the night is for Amazon. Keep our podcast free by shopping at Amazon. Visit cspn.us then click the Keep Our Podcast Free link at the top of the page. From there, scroll down and click on the Amazon link to shop. Purchase items from Amazon as you normally would, whether it's books, music, electronics, jewelry, apparel, or Billy Joel. For every purchase made on Amazon through our link, Amazon sends the CSPN a payment. Ka-ching!
Nice.
That helps us keep the Comic Book Chronicles podcast free for our listeners at no extra cost to you. Amazon.com through CSPN.us. Do it today.
And as we
didn't start the fire things a lot more often now.
Oh gosh. So as we come to another end of this here Comic Book Chronicles, thank you each and every one of you fine folks for coming out. I have been Roddykat. You can find me at Roddykat on Twitter. You can find me at News Nerds Need on Twitter. You can find me at CBCaps on Instagram. Agent_70 on Twitter and Instagram. PC_Dirt on Twitter. Pop Culture Net on Twitter. PopCultureNetwork.com and all of the umbrella sites they're in. Maybe Bite, if that even is still a thing, under comic reviews, no vowels. Tim DOGG98, the Osiris of this ish. You can find him at Tim DOGG98 on Twitter. You can find him at CBChron on Twitter, which is the Comic Book Chronicles Twitter account. You can also find him at The Click Nation on Twitter. That's VKLIQNATION, all one word. You can also find him at Comic Book Resources, CBR.com, where he's over there writing his face off. You can find this here podcast on the Coastal Podcast Network. That's CSPN.us.
Do it today.
You can also find this podcast on your podcast perusal place of choice, whether it be Google Play, Apple iTunes, aka Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or the Coastal Podcast Network SoundCloud page.
Click like and subscribe, and leave us a 5-star review on Apple Podcasts.
Indeed, and you can also follow along with us as we record live each week on Thursday nights, 9:30-ish p.m. on youtube.com/theclicknation and at the same time twitch.tv/Comic Book Chronicles.
Click like and subscribe and click the notification button for so you get notified when we start airing.
Indeed, and thanks for folks who were lurking and while we were recording and or said hey, we appreciate it. We will be back next week, same bad time, same bad channel, and also like I said earlier, happy Inktober to those who are participating, like our own Agent_70. Go check out his Instagram daily.
Yep, let's see how well I can keep up this year.
You've got this. You got this. All right, folks. This has been the Comic Book Chronicles. Peace.
Peace. One.
And knowing is half the battle.